okay, folks. Welcome to another collab video with this tetchy bastard, Mr. Lukozer. How are you, mate?
Oh, you tetchy bastard! I'm the eternal ray of sunshine. Fucking hell, you talking about?
You all right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still breathing, which is as good as it gets.
That's always a bonus. Yeah, this video, I think I first mentioned this probably about 2 years ago.
At
we just
least.
never actually. We just never really got around to doing it. The thing is, it's not interesting the slightest, but I'm not just about video games, and neither are you. I know you're a big cricket fan, but there is absolutely not a cat's hailing chance that I will ever join you in a cricket bloody stream.
Oh, fucking Philistine, isn't you? Yeah, cricket is my number one reason for existing. It's as simple as that.
That's right. It's an interesting thing because I know you can look at somebody and you can sort of prejudge somebody what kind of thing they're into, but cricket and you, nah. Was there a particular reason? I know we're going off topic already. Is there a particular reason that you like cricket? Was it something you watched with your dad or that, or is it just something you enjoy?
No, I first got into it in oh fucking hell! I was only a young'un when I first got into it. Yeah, I can't remember what it was about it. That actually, what it probably was like a PE lesson or something in infant school, and we were playing cricket, and that's when I first got into it. You know, it could be something as ridiculously simple as that, and and also. I mean, at that age, we're talking. Actually, it wasn't infant school; it was probably junior school. But we were probably talking like I was about like 7 or 8. I was terrified of black geezers because I thought they were all going to be like the West Indies and just like So yeah. Yeah, I mean, because the very prospects of facing the West Indies had grown men absolutely shitting their pants scared, and I took it a bit too literally, so I was like terrified every time I saw one. Yeah.
Who is, before we move on to the subject in hand, who is the best team at the moment in the world? Is it always the same team? I mean, obviously, you talk about rugby, you think of probably South Africa, maybe New Zealand. Is it the same in cricket? I mean, there's only literally 3 teams that play bloody cricket, isn't there? 3 countries.
Yeah, okay, yeah. There's only 3 countries that play it. Yeah, the best at the moment, I'll tell you what, it sure as fuck ain't us. I mean, we had the last Cricket World Cup, and we came 7th out of 10. We did lucky, did well to finish that high. I suppose you've got to say it's Australia. As much as I hate to say it, yeah, it's probably still them. West Indies are fuck all nowhere now. Considering the 70s and 80s, they didn't lose a single series. They barely lost a game, let alone a series. This time round, they didn't even qualify for the World Cup. They were nowhere. That said, we just had a one-day tour over in the West Indies, and we lost. So, yeah, business as usual there.
I think it's a bit like Italy in the world. The football. I'm not a football fan, but apparently Italy are shit at the moment.
Well, yeah, they failed. Yeah, they failed to qualify for the last 2 World Cups. They just scraped qualifying into the next Euros. I mean, Scotland qualified even more easily than Italy did for this thing. So.
I know. How did Scotland qualify for the Cricket World Cup?
They have done a couple of times, but yeah, not this one. Mind you, this World Cup was fucking shit. There was only one associate team in the entire event. It's ludicrous. The worst one there's been so far. The fact that it was held in India didn't help either.
Anyway, back to the subject matter. Darts. Let's play darts. When did you first kind of become interested in said arrow throwing sport?
It's probably around the same sort of time as I got into cricket. In fact, if anything, possibly even earlier. But it was from watching a program called the Indoor League, which I'm sure you remember.
Was it like pub games?
Yeah, that's right. And by the time we got it down here, because not every ITV franchise showed it, by the time it came down here, they pretty much focused entirely on darts. So I think it was shown about like 12:30 or something. And around this time, we're talking what 77, 78. So I was at infant school then, and I would come home for lunch, and that would start because I always remember the theme tune to it as well. And I remember Fred Truman. We're going back to cricket again here with Fred Truman, but. Yeah, there was something about it. I just found it absolutely compelling. But I always had to go back to school before the second half of the programme started, which I remember really sulking about. Yeah,
it was. No, sorry, I was going to say, so it was on like during the day, midweek.
Oh, yeah.
After Crown Court, probably, or Pebble Mill.
Well, it's Pebble Mill, which was possibly the most boring program ever devised, was that was BBC. I never used to bother watching BBC when I was. I always had it on ITV in the hope that I'd catch some of the indoor league. So even though I was only about 5 or 6, I was already sort of like well into watching the darts.
I mean, it's insane. I think there is. I don't think it was a program that was ever. I don't think it was shown in Scotland. Maybe it was. I was probably at school at the time, but it was very Englishy, wasn't it? I mean, it was set in an English pub, and it was things like darts. They didn't have pool or anything, did they? They had like, was it Skittles or something? You got a ball and a string or something?
Yeah. When it first started, it was darts, Skittles, shove halfpenny, and bar billiards. I mean, televised shove halfpenny. What a fucking great idea. I mean, I can't knock it. I mean, it was Sid Waddell who came up with it, and he was the producer, and so it was because of him that darts actually first appeared on television. Yeah. So I mean, his is a name that he's always going to be connected with darts. He was the greatest darts commentator by a long way.
It's all become crystal clear now why you watched it, because he could literally turn the sport of watching paint dry entertaining. You know what I mean? He just had this infectious enthusiasm for anything that he spoke about.
Yeah. I mean, he was only the producer for that programme, but the main commentator was Dave Lanning, of course, another big, well-known name in darts commentary. So the team was already there. There were plenty of names that you would recognise that appeared on the indoor league as well. So it wasn't totally obscure.
Yeah, I'm just thinking some people like MMA, some people like shove halfpenny.
I'd rather watch shove halfpenny myself. Yeah.
Dearie me. Yeah, well, my history of darts was I didn't watch the indoor league because I don't think it was broadcast. It had to literally be when I don't know who it was. It was always the BBC that picked up on the BDO, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think ITV ever showed any. I mean, they may have done. I mean, it was big enough in the 80s. There were plenty of darts tournaments being shown on television. Yeah, so ITV might have shown a couple of them, but the majority was BBC.
I mean, I don't remember watching them, but I think there was things like the News of the World.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the News of the World event was. I mean, that was a real crapshoot. I mean, it was basically best of 3 legs. That was it. Yeah. I think actually when it first started, don't quote me on this, but when it first started, it was just 1 leg. That was it. So I mean, it really was luck. Anybody winning it twice must have had something going for them, which of course Bobby George did. He did win the News of the World twice. You're also standing further away from the dartboard.
Oh, nice. What was it? 7? Was it 7 foot or something? Was it 9 foot? 7 foot?
I can't remember I can't remember the exact.
And I think the world, I think you might be right. I think the news of the world was like 9 foot or something. It was quite a bit further back.
It was a fair bit further back. So it had a slight extra bit of difficulty, despite the fact that the matches, if you can really call them that, were so short.
But as you say, though, for somebody to be able to win it like twice, you had to be either extremely lucky. Well, you'd have to be good to win it to start off with, or probably more likely to be pretty good.
Yeah, let's face it, Bobby George. I don't think he's on. No, he's not on my list. But you could never say he wasn't a decent darts player. How the fucking hell he was able to be as accurate as he was, considering he had one of the weirdest throws I've ever seen. He's like across his face. That's like right, this when he's throwing.
Yeah. And he kind of goes like that. He throws, as you say, he's like always obscuring his face.
Yeah, it's a weird throw, but it works for him.
It's funny, but getting back to it was when it first started kind of getting televised on BBC. I started watching it, the classic '80s era, and then I was so much into it that I got a dartboard for my birthday, and my dad put it up on the wall, and he even built a light above it, and he he had it was a piece of metal which he put into the hockey, and it was the correct distance. And so I would be about, 14 years old at the time, and I just played darts. I was playing darts constantly. I ate and lived and breathed darts. When I wasn't watching darts, I was playing darts. When I wasn't watching that, I was watching Bullseye, and I was obsessed with the game. And what I used to do was I would write down, I would watch a couple of legs with Eric Bristol, whatever, and I would write down their scores. And then I would then pretend I was playing him, so he would get 100, I would get like 45, then he would get 100, and I would get 26, whatever, and I would see if I could try and beat him. And I don't think I think maybe a couple of times I managed to beat when they had like a particularly shit leg. But I wasn't bad. I mean, I must have, I don't know, my best ever, I think I managed a 14 darter once. I came close to doing better, but it was always getting the doubles. And I had loads of 180s. I had a game about 2 weeks ago. I was up at a mate's house. He's got a pool table and he's got a dartboard in his wall. And I picked up the darts and I flung them, and I couldn't get anywhere near it. It was like fucking hell.
Yeah, that's what I would be like now. I used to play it quite a bit when I was drinking. The pub that we always went to, they had 2 or 3 dartboards actually. They were quite big on darts there. And I was getting relatively good. I'd never hit a 180. I hit 140s on several occasions. The highest I ever hit was 171. Sorry, no, 177.
That's not possible, was it? 177.
Yeah. It is 3 57s, 3 treble 90s.
You're right.
But no, this, 2 60s and 57. So yeah, so 177. So I got close to a 180, but
So you never played at home or that? You didn't? It was just in the pub.
I did have a dartboard here. I don't have it anymore, but I didn't use it very often, which I rather regret. And rather like you, now if I was to pick up a set of darts, because I haven't played for about 11 years, I'd be lucky if I hit the board, So when if I'm ever sort of, ever mentioning about, if we were playing it on, I'm doing this, and this, I'm going back to the days when I used to actually play it, not now.
I'd love to get a dartboard, but the problem is I've not really got anywhere to actually put it. It would have to be at the proper height and all that. And Yeah. But anyway, I got into darts sort of early 80s, and I mean, I didn't stop watching it until probably, I don't know, maybe 90, and then I kind of moved away from it. So before we start talking about the players, etc., obviously it was the British Darts Organisation, the BDO, and then because I've actually done it. This is surprising. I've actually done a bit of preparation. I've got some
Fucking
stats up here.
hell.
I know. There you go.
Preparation. You heard it here first. It was going to happen at some point.
Just ask me what Scott Waite, who won the BDO in 2013, what his average was, and I can tell you. Yeah, looking at this, the first winner of the PDC was Dennis Priestley in 1994. Yep. So yep. Presumably that was the first PDC. What was that, professional?
Well, when they split, it was originally the WDC, World Darts Corporation, I think it was. So that's the one that Dennis Priestley won in '94. It amazes me. The last BDO World Championship before the split in '93, you'd think it was one of the upcoming, new players that would have won it. No, it was John Lowe. 93. He's been around since pre indoor league days, and he's still winning the thing in '93. So it says a lot about his longevity. And then so after the split, the BDO obviously went rapidly downhill after that. All the top players went to the WDC as it was.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm looking at the according to Wikipedia, so obviously it's accurate. The last BDO was in 2020. I would have to go back 6 years. I'd have to go back to 2014, where I recognise. I mean, the guy that won it, he won it in 2017, 18, 19. A guy called Glenn Durant.
Glenn Durant, yeah.
I'm not even familiar with him.
He's a total personality vacuum. He went to PDC and won the Premier League in the for the PDC, big event which goes on for fucking ages. And then he got the yips, the dartitis that Eric Bristow got, and he got it big time. He couldn't hit the fucking board. He just plummeted down the rankings. I don't think he plays anymore. The BDO made a big deal out of him. They were saying like how great he was. I mean, okay, he was hardly shit, but when he went over to the PDC, you could see the golf in abilities. He mixed it for a little bit, but not for very long.
I don't see his name mentioned in any of the finals at all. So what prompted the split? Was it to do with money?
Almost certainly, yeah. I don't know the full sort of like details about it, but it was almost certainly the amount of money that the BDO was taking in for holding the events compared to the amount of prize money that was being offered, it was insultingly low. BDO were creaming so much off of the gate receipts and stuff like that. In the end, the players had enough, and they just said, look, either you up the prize money, or we're out of here. And I think the BDO thought that they were just bluffing, because they were of the opinion, well, if they do leave, where are they going to go? The thought of them going off and forming their own, sort of like darts organisation never occurred to them. So they thought, okay, we'll call their bluff, and they just said, no, we're not going to. So they all fucked off.
Yeah, I remember I was '94. I was still watching darts at that point, and I remember being like devastated that this had happened, because I didn't have Sky TV. No. So suddenly all the favourites had just disappeared.
Yeah,
and you were left with this. I wouldn't say shit, but you're left with all these also-rans.
Yeah, I was the same. Back then, I didn't have Sky, and so when I heard they were all leaving, I was like, oh, fucking hell, thankfully, in a purely selfish sort of point of view, I got Sky about 3 years later. Yeah, it was about '97 when I got it, and I was like, okay, now I can actually watch proper darts again. It was great seeing the proper darts back on. You know, none of this. Oh yeah, look at this great player that no one's ever heard of. No, we're back to seeing, you know, Bristow taking on Phil Taylor and that. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, this is more like it.
And then there was obviously a lot of guys that joined the PDC that, well, I'm only looking at what was the sort of finalists and the finalists and the runner up. There's a lot of guys that made their name in the PDC. Obviously, they were probably too young to play in the BDO.
Yeah. Also, when eventually the BDO were always like really sour about the PDC. It got to the point where if a player won the BDO World Championships, they were immediately offered a contract to go and play in the PDC. And most of them took it straight away. There were a few, Glenn Durrant being one, Martin Adams being another. In fact, Martin Adams never took up the option to play for the PDC. Glenn Durrant resisted for a few years before he then went over. But a lot of players, as soon as the chance got there, it was like, yeah, I'm fucking signing up. I'm pissed off out of here. You know.
The thing is, the guys that were winning the BDO after everybody had fucked off to the PDC, they were like, oh, blah 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 is the world BDO champion, and it was like, oh, really, you know, if you took part in the PDC, mate, you wouldn't even get out the first round.
Yeah.
So they became the sort of the wish version of like the real darts champion. There wasn't really any kudos to say that you're the BDO champion because all the big players had defected.
Yeah, exactly. You know, winning the BDO World Championship and you're not playing anyone of the likes of, you know, Bristow, Taylor. I reluctantly add Dennis Priestley to the list, even though I couldn't stand him. Much I couldn't stand Taylor either. But yeah, you're not playing any of like the big names, you know, the best players in the world. And I mean, obviously, there were, you know, one or two players that were in the BDO, especially later on, that were certainly good enough. You know, Barney's the obvious example there. Michael Van Gerwen, obviously, you know. Although Van Gerwen took quite a while when he went to the PDC. It took him a few years before he actually started getting anywhere. He was in the wilderness nowhere for a while.
So did he play in the BDO then for a while?
Yeah.
Oh, did he? Right.
Give you an idea how long ago it was. He still had hair when he was in the BDO, so you know.
Yeah, I pretty much stopped. As I says, when the PDC formed, everybody that was anybody defected, and it just left a handful of other sort of also rans. At that point, I stopped watching it. Not so much because it was going to be shit. It was because I had no way of. I didn't. Well, yeah, all my favourites had disappeared. I didn't have any way of watching the PDC, so I pretty much stopped watching darts. When would it be, 94 or something like that? Up until probably just about 2 years ago, if I'm being honest.
Fucking hell.
I never.
So,
It just. Yeah.
There's a lot of big names you've missed then.
Oh yeah. And a little disclaimer: I'll guarantee that all mine are well-known household names. You're probably going to come out, and we were talking about this a couple of months ago. You mentioned a couple of guys, and I'm like, I don't even know who they are. So you're far more knowledgeable, like most of these videos we do, I have to say. But anyway, you'll be probably mentioning some players that I won't be familiar with. But I've obviously based my selection on the guys that I do know.
I'd say there's probably three on my list that you're not familiar with. The rest, I reckon you will know.
Yeah.
So
what I will do when I'm editing this, when you guys are watching this, hopefully I'll have a little a picture of said dart player. I'm not going to piss about with video footage and that kind of stuff, because that'll just bloody take the video down, no doubt.
It depends on what video footage you use. I mean, I don't like it when we're playing, like, you know, loads of videos and that anyway. So yeah, I've got no problem with that.
I'll stick a wee thumbnail or whatever it is. So yeah, the purpose of this video, just to be clear, it's not about the best dart players in the world. It's not about that. It's about the guys that Lukozer and myself like to watch. You know, our favourite players for whatever reason. I mean, without any spoilers, I have a couple of guys on my list that have won nothing, but I liked them. I thought they were great players. I liked their style.
Yeah, I got some like that as well. So yeah, it's favourite players, not best players. Because let's face it,
Yeah.
if it was best players, Phil Taylor's going to be number one, and I can't stand the cunt. So there's no way he's going to appear on my list.
Yeah, apart from having an extremely dodgy moustache, I mean, he just looked fucking ridiculous. I mean, I'm looking, you know, if you were to look at, if you were to say who was the best darts player ever, it would have to be Phil Taylor. I mean, he's won it. In fact, I've got a little. He's won it. Is it 14
16
times?
times. 16.
Let's have a quick. Let's see if my Excel spreadsheet is correct. Phil Taylor, there he is. 16 times. Yeah, I mean, he first won it in 1990, 92, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2000. You can see a certain pattern for him in here. I mean, he won it. He didn't lose from what, 95. He won it in 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. 1, 2. He didn't win it in 2003. And then he then won it in 2004, 5, 6. And then he won it another 3 times after that. But I mean, I think I'd be right in saying out of any sport, doesn't matter what it is, even bloody shove halfpenny. I don't think there's we'll call him a sportsman because that is a sport. I don't think there's a person that has dominated his discipline quite as much as Phil Taylor dominated darts. I mean, that's phenomenal.
No, there hasn't been anyone like it in like you say, in any sport. It's just to say that the bloke was such an arsehole.
Yeah. I mean, looking at his stats, he has got the highest 3-dart average out of all the BDOs right up till the present day. He averaged 110.94, almost 111 points. And that was in 2009 when he beat Raymond And Raymond Barneveld lost, and he only averaged 101.18.
That's it. I mean, that shows the difference there between like PDC and BDO. You score, you're averaging well over 100, and you still lose. That's how good you've got to play if you're going to get anywhere in the PDC. Now, in the BDO, you can win with mid-90s average, no problem.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a huge difference.
Yeah. Mid Kenny, there was very, very few. Let's see, BDO. Right, there's no actually a BDO. No, there is nobody actually got above 100 average in the BDO. The highest, no surprise, was Phil Taylor. He got 97.58.
Which one was that?
1992 when he played Mike Gregory.
Mike Gregory. I mean, it was a pretty good final, and it went all the way, didn't it? Yeah, all the way to the sudden death leg. Gregory threw it away, really. I wasn't
no pun
a big
intended.
fan of Mike Gregory.
Did he miss the board?
Yeah, Gregory should have won it, and he fucked up big time and let Taylor in.
Yeah, but I mean, it's what do you think? What do you think? I mean, an interesting little statistic is this thing tells you the prize money. It doesn't show you the prize money for the PDC, but it shows you the prize money for the BDO. I mean, Leighton Rees got $3,000 back in 1978, and then it steadily creeped up. I mean, 1985, Eric got $10,000. And then it culminated at its highest in 2019. Glenn Durant got 100,000.
Yeah,
and interestingly, the year later, Wayne Warren got 23,000. So they obviously thought, "Fuck, we've hardly got any money left."
Yeah, exactly. That was the last time it was held, and he was really fucked off about it. He'd won the world title, and his prize money was, and that was even less than he had been promised. So yeah, he was.
Well, Wayne Warren got 23,000 for winning it in 2020, and you would need to go back to Jockey Wilson got 20 grand in 1980. No, wait a minute. Hang on a second. Jockey Wilson got 20. Yeah, he got 20 grand in 1989. Phil
That
Taylor got.
was. Oh God.
No, I was going to say Phil Taylor in 1990. Phil Taylor got 24 grand, and yeah, 20 years later in 2020, Wayne Warren got 23 grand.
Yeah, I know. PDC
Yeah.
winner got he pocketed over 200 grand.
So yeah.
Mediocre is 23.
Aye, the thing is, I'm not a big Sky fan, but I have to say they really. I mean, the mid '80s and the BDO was great, but what I love about darts is it's so entertaining, and I love the fact that they've really ramped up the razzmatazz. They've got the girls dancing, and they've got the fireworks, and they've got the walk-on music, and all that.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All of that. That was all Barry Hearn putting all that in. He's the guy that really has transformed darts. It is now second only to football in terms of like revenue generated for each event
Really?
in this country. So you could say, yeah, darts is the Britain's second national sport, behind only football. He's got to have done something right there, for it to get that big.
Yeah. And yeah, am I right in thinking that snooker they still get bigger prize money, don't they, than darts, I think?
Well, Barry Hearn's taken over snooker as well. He's finding that a bit more of a tough nut to crack, but I reckon he'll do it. The prize money's going up in snooker. It's certainly not on the level of darts yet, but it'll get there. Yeah,
That's surprising. I'm actually glad to hear that. I always thought that darts players were a poor second, but no. So the PDC does generate more money now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe need to dust that bloody dartboard up and get it up my wall.
The prize pot for the World Darts this year is $2.5 million. So I think the winner, I think they pocket $500,000 if they win it this year. Wow. It's not bad, is it?
Not bad at all. Aye, I mean, what was I going to say there? I've completely forgot my train of thought there. Can't remember.
Well, I've got a question for you then, if you can't remember. Right, we're talking about darts finals. What would you say was the best darts final? If we're talking just about the worlds, the best world final. I know what mine is.
Obviously, I've only really seen a couple of finals, the more recent finals. All my ones, and my memory's a bit sketchy.
You saw last year's final, didn't you?
I saw. Well, I was going to say that. I mean, yeah, Michael van Gerwen. Michael Smith, it's not a spoiler. He won 7-4.
Yeah.
And I mean, it had the best leg of darts that you will ever witness. You can't possibly beat that.
No, that's. I don't think that will ever be done again. Let alone, well, it can't get beaten. But I don't think we'll ever see that happen again. That was fucking unreal.
For people that don't know what we're talking about, the least number of darts that you can check out 501 is 9. So a 9 darter is like the ultimate. It's like 180. What would it be? 280s.
280s, then 141. You can actually. There's a slight little bit of variation, not a hell of a lot though. But yeah. Usually, 180, 141 is the usual one.
Just in this particular final, Michael van Gerwen, he threw first. No, sorry, Michael Smith. No, Michael van Gerwen.
Yeah, Van Gerwen, yeah.
He got his 180, and the thing is, 180s now are commonplace. The crowd weren't that bothered. Michael Smith, 180. Yeah, bit of cheering going on. Michael Van Gerwen, 180. Whoa, we're on for a possible 9 darter. Michael Smith gets a 180. Two potential 180 9 darters. And Michael Van Gerwen, he missed his last dart, didn't he? He just missed it.
So it's actually, I think Van Gerwen, on his second throw hit 177, so he had 144 left, so he got 2 treble 20s and then missed a double 12. So then up steps Michael Smith.
Cool as
and
a
he
cucumber.
does it. Yeah, and he did it. Treble 20, treble 19, double 12, bosh.
Yeah, it's just insane. I mean, why? Apart from obviously the money is such a big thing, and it's a sport that you and I could take up right now. That's the great thing about darts. It's that's why I can't be arsed with fucking footballers and all this kind of shit getting 150 grand a week and all that. But darts players, if you and I were good enough, you could be the next PDC world champion. You know, it's the money is there, and it's up to anybody to go and step up to the hockey and take it.
Yeah, that's what Barry Hearn himself says. You know, look, if you can play darts, come over and sign up. We'll see how good you are, and you could be up there winning £500,000 playing the sport you love, and you can't argue with it. It's another great thing about darts. It's not expensive. You just pick up a dartboard from fucking Argos or something. Get a half decent set of darts, and away you go. I think that's one of its big appeals.
I mean, so do you think? I mean, just to put it in context, Michael, we're talking about the 9-darter. The only 9-darter that has ever been hit in the BDO was in 1990 by, what's his name, the American guy. Paul Lim. I'm thinking of Nicky Veraccio. He was another. Was he another American darter?
Don't remember that name. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the Americans.
Yeah. Paul Lim. He hit that. I think it was in 1990. He got the 9-darter. To put it in context, fucking hell, where did I put it about? What the hell is it? Oh, what have I done with it? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
All right.
There has been, I think there's. There we go. Right, yeah, it's on a separate tab. Paul Lim hit the 1990. He hit a 9-darter in 1990. Since the PDC has started, there has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's been 14 9-darters. Now the BDO ran from. Let me go back to that. The BDO ran from 1978 up until. Let me just count that.
Up until about
2020, which is whatever, I don't know, 30 years or something, doesn't matter, roughly. The BDO has only been going since 1994, and there's been 14 9-darters. Raymond Barneveld got one in 2009. He got another one the year after. Adrian Lewis, Dean Winstanley, Michael Van Gerwen, Terry Jenkins.
You're not an A.D. Lewis fan, are you?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I've also got a short list of people I can't stand, and he tops that list.
Really? I don't mind A.D. Lewis.
Maybe he wears his heart on his sleeve a wee bit. James Wade, I'll tell you, have you seen James Wade's bird? I think he's married to one of the glamour girls.
One of the dancers, yeah.
Anyway,
he's another one I quite like, James Wade.
I like him. William Borland, Darius
Labanauskas, yes, Lithuanian player.
And then obviously Michael Smith. So, and the thing is, I've watched darts over the last couple of years, whether I think Gerwin Price, I'm sure he hit 2 9-darters in one match.
In one night, yeah, he did.
I don't think there's been a sport where it's gone from like there to like it's almost at the, I'm not saying we're at the point we're going to get 9-darters. I mean, if we do get to the point where it's like 9-darters constantly, they're going to have to bloody move the dartboard or make it smaller or whatever.
Yeah, they'll have to do something. Yeah,
but they're getting close. They're getting close to that. So what do you think apart from the money? Why do you think that the standard has improved so much?
I mean, I don't know. Is the honest answer. They do play a lot more tournaments than they ever did in the BDO, so that probably has a fair bit to do with it. They are actually playing more. And again, I think it's a bit of the Taylor sort of legacy. You know, everyone was determined to beat him, so everyone had to get better. And of course, okay, thankfully he's been and gone. But everyone is still playing at this like staggeringly high level. So anyone else who's now coming along, they've got to play even better than that. So of course the standard's having to go up and up and up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about as good an answer as I can really give with that one.
I suppose the fact that you can make so much money. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, if you said you're going to give up your job and take up darts, folk would laugh at you. But now,
Yeah.
if you're a decent level, where you're maybe winning county matches or the odd tournament, then it's worthwhile getting better because I mean, look at the money they're offering. So there's probably more. I don't know whether there's more people playing darts. I mean, I play pool in a pub on a Tuesday, and I think that there's darts as well, and they used to play on a Thursday, but they've now started playing on a Tuesday, and there's about, I don't know, there's probably more than double the number of darts players as there is pool players. It's such a popular sport, and I can understand why.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can certainly understand why it's more popular than pool. I mean, I'm not a pool fan at all. Darts. I mean, again, I think it's because, as much as I hate to say this is the reason, I do think that the money is there in darts, and it's money that's attracting so many players.
Yeah, and
Everyone's
obviously,
hoping to be the next Phil Taylor,
and there's obviously a lot of young players coming through, and it's nice to see there's women darts players coming through as well now, which it's certainly it's grown a hell of a lot over the last whatever it is. And the thing is, before we kind of move on to what we're going to talk about, there is something I think you'd be hard pushed to find a more entertaining sport to watch. Yeah, it's just old. Well, I was going to say old guys chucking darts at a board, but the atmosphere, the commentator, and all that, it's just the pure razzmatazz. Like I said, you've got a guy in his 50s with a big, massive beer belly, and he's walking on with his like the I don't know, well, fucking Phil Taylor. What was he called? The Power or something?
Yeah.
You've got the guys with their walk-on T-shirts and their music, and it's brilliant. I mean, I've always wanted to go to when it was at Lakeside, and I've never actually. I'll need to get down at some point before I die. I want to go to the a darts tournament, but I think it's brilliant. What do you think makes it such an entertaining sport? Because it can change in a heartbeat, eh?
I mean, it could be down to that. I mean, you would have never have thought that darts would have been like a particularly ideal sport for a big crowd because the actual like playing board, is yay big. Well, if you're like how many fucking rows back, how are you going to see that? So obviously they got all these monitors around and everything. But yeah, such a small playing area, you wouldn't have thought it possible that this sport could generate the sort of crowds that it gets. Unfortunately, the PDC are rather turning a blind eye to the fact that a lot of people in the crowd, and I'm talking well over half the crowd, are not there to watch the darts. They're there just to have a piss up and everything else. It's one thing I don't like about the PDC Worlds, and when it starts on Friday, you're going to see it. There's going to be it'll be packed out every session, every night. It always is. But I can guarantee you, at least 50% of the audience won't even be facing the stage. They're not there to watch the darts, which that bit does annoy me. I mean, if they if they're going to buy the tickets and that, then I'm sure Barry Hearn is quite happy to let them do it. But I would much rather it be go there to watch the darts. Don't go there just to get fucking shit faced and what have you. But yeah, a huge number of the crowd are there purely for that reason.
Aye, I mean, obviously it's a pub game. It always will be a pub game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's now become serious business. But I know what you're saying. But I think the whole folk shouting and all that's what makes the atmosphere. It gives it.
This absolutely. Yeah. We just go back to just briefly because even though I was mentioning like last year's final, that is not actually the final that I would consider to be the best
Oh,
one. I'm surprised you don't. Or you haven't thought of it, because I suspect you will agree with me when it comes to what I think is the best final.
let me just have a look at my stats. I'm thinking it's probably going to be. Oh God.
And I don't even think it's close. I think it runs away with it. It's not just the best world final. It's the best game of darts I've ever seen.
Is it a BDO one? Was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Eric Bristow and I mean some of the Jockey Wilson and Eric Bristow battles were fantastic.
Well, this was one. 89.
89.
Yeah,
89.
the 89 final.
Yeah.
Because it was first to 6 sets in those days.
Yep, 6-4 it was.
And Jockey Wilson stormed off. He was 5 sets to 0 up. So Bristow was dead and buried. Didn't stand a chance. And then it went 5-1. Oh, and Bristow was like, oh, thank God, being really sarcastic. Oh, I finally won a set.
Yeah.
Then 5-2, then 5-3, then 5-4, and people are starting to think, what the fuck, Jockey's game had just completely fallen apart. And then he eventually stumbled over the line to win 6-4, but what a comeback. I think that was the game where Sid Waddell gave the immortal line, the biggest comeback since Lazarus. But yeah, that was just, that was the greatest game of darts I ever saw. And of course, 2 of the biggest names in the history of the sport.
Yeah. And I another memorable final, probably for all the wrong reasons, because I was anti Bristow because he was English and he was an arrogant shit. And when Keith Deller not storm ahead? Or I can't remember. Keith Deller won 6-5, and he was an unknown, complete unknown.
Yeah, he qualified for the event. He wasn't like a top 16 or top 32 or anything. The only bit about that final I remember, it's the same bit that everyone remembers. Bristow had a dart for the leg, didn't go for it. He banked on Deller not getting the 138 check out, and of course Deller just came along, bosh, world champion.
That's right. It's funny when I think back to watching Bristol. He had this stealthy look in his face. He was like a killer shark. He was like a white shark. He was just so focused, like laser focused. But when he started getting beat, you could see his eyes were glazed over, and he almost looked like out of sorts.
Well, I mean, he hated losing, and let's face it, who doesn't? He wasn't a good loser. He freely admitted he wasn't a good loser. And yet the weird thing is, Jockey Wilson was the one that had the reputation for being a bad loser, but actually, a lot of the time, he took it really well. So, yeah, quite where that reputation came from, I don't know. But yeah, Bristow hated losing. And he would try everything, he would be constantly winding up his opponents and all that. And a lot of the time it works, let's face it,
I have a mate, I can't remember, I think it was a guy I worked with. He was down in London about, I don't know when it was, 20 years ago, whatever. And he was in a pub, and Bristol was there. And I went, all right, Eric, how are you doing? He went, oh, you're a great player, not as good as Jockey Wilson. He went, fuck off, you cunt.
Yeah, he kind of deserved that, really, didn't he?
Oh dear. Anyway, right, listen, we'll make a start. So, like I said, this is not the best darts players. It's not based on who they've won, what tournaments have won, or anything. It's based on how much we like these players. So, what you're saying is, what do you want to go first and give us? Is it 6 to 10?
Well, yeah. So yeah, okay, yeah. So if I'll give you my numbers 10 to 6. There's going to be a few names here that I don't think you'll recognise, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
So at number 10, I have Rapid Ricky Evans. At 9, I have Paul Lim. At 8 is Stephen Bunting. At 7 is Michael Smith, the current world champion. And at number 6 is James Wade.
A couple of them I'm not familiar with. The first guy you mentioned, I think was it the second? Oh, Stephen Bunting. I've heard of him, but I don't.
Well, he won the BDO World Championship. I think it was either 2016 or 2017. He's come over to PDC. He's struggling a little bit. I mean, he's in the top 32, so he's not doing terribly. But yeah, he's really sort of like seen the difference in class between the players. But yeah, I really like the bloke. He comes across as being like very likable and yeah. I mean, he's a decent player.
He won it in 2014. He beat a guy called Alan Norris 7-4.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just talk about briefly your players?
Well, let's do your 10 to 6, and then we'll chat about the players we've got.
In 10th place is Mike Gregory. Now, the best he managed in the BDO, he was runner-up in 1992. He lost to some guy, Phil Taylor, who disappeared in the oblivion.
Sadly, the late Mike Gregory, but yes.
You're joking. When did I know that? He's died, is he really?
Yeah, it was either last year, it might have been the year before, but yeah.
Ah, bloody hell. I don't know if I knew that. I don't think I did. Ah, Christ almighty, that's... Fucking hell, you'll be telling me bloody Jockey Wilson's not with us next. Right, no. Number 9, Peter Wright. Scottish guy, though that's a bit dubious. Have you heard them talking?
Yeah, I mean, he spent. Well, actually, we'll come to that when we go when we start discussing them. So, yeah, number 8.
Number 8 is Michael Smith.
Yeah,
number 7 is Michael van Gerwen, and number 6 is Raymond van Barneveld.
All right. This could piss off a few people. Michael van Gerwen isn't even on my list. Some people are probably thinking, how can you have MVG as low as number 7? Well, he doesn't even appear in mine, you know. The thing is, I guess we can start with Van Gerwen. I liked him when he first started to like make an impression in the PDC, and I liked him because he had such enthusiasm that, you know, if he was doing well and he won a leg, he would go absolutely fucking mad, you know, and like and all that. Nowadays, he's very complacent about his wins, and he's got to that stage where he has like the Taylor sort of level of arrogance. He goes there and he expects to be winning. He expects players to sort of like, you know, fall aside, and because it just doesn't happen. It did happen for a little bit, but yeah, these days it certainly doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, looking at, I was actually quite surprised when I was doing the stats here. Michael van Gerwen has, I'm saying he's won the PDC 3 times. The last time was 4 years ago. He won it in 2000. So he won it in 2014, 2017, and 2019. Now that was pretty much when I probably started watching darts, probably about 2019. And I'd never heard of the guy, and he's pretty much, he's like a robot when he throws. Maybe the fact that he's completely bald is that as well, but he's like a robot, and he's got an arrogance about him. But then I think any good sportsman, Muhammad Ali, all these guys, you've got to be arrogant. If you're too nice, it just doesn't cut it. So I like him.
I'd certainly go along with that. Yeah, you've got to be like completely sort of, you know, narrow purpose. You've got to be focused on, you know, you're there to win. You're not there to make up numbers. If you're there in a tournament, you're there to win it. So I totally understand why he's like that. Doesn't mean I like it, you know. So yeah, he's. If we had done this video back when we were originally going to do it, which was about 3 years ago, I think,
Yeah, quite a while ago.
then
Yep.
MVG would have been on my list and quite high up it.
Mm.
But now, yeah, not so much. And he's lost his sort of like air of invincibility around him as well. He's getting beaten relatively often now. But despite that, he is still many people's pick to win the world title this year. So that remains to be seen. I have no idea who I would choose to win it this year, but I don't think I would choose MVG.
I mean, you look at Michael, again, I'm just looking at my stats here. Michael Van Gerwen has featured in, let's see, well, he's featured in about 6 PDC finals. In 2013, he got beat by Phil Taylor, and he averaged 100 point. Now, there's not many have got over 100 average 9 darts. Now, that, am I right in thinking that includes the double as well, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So to achieve, I mean, they always talk about when you talk about darts, good standard. When you're averaging 30 points per dart, that is
Oh
some
yeah,
level.
yeah.
So
It
to
ain't
get
bad.
100 for 3 is phenomenal. So he got beat in 2013. He got 100.66. He won it in 2014. He had 100.1. He won it again in 2017. He had 107.79, which I think it's about the third highest out of any of that. He lost it to Peter Wright in 2020. He averaged 102.88, which, if you look at that compared to who else is beating it, he would have beaten virtually everybody. Phil Taylor's had a couple of hires, but that would have won any final any other time. And then he lost it. He lost it last year to Michael Smith. Well, in fact, yeah, that's the only time he had 99.58. So when he does play, he's a big hitter.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no doubt about it. The other thing is he's really good on the doubles, and which of course you've got to be. Although there are a few players, yeah, none on my list, but yeah, there are a few players who are like quite fairly big names, but their finishing's terrible. They're constantly missing.
Yeah, you can't hit the
Yeah,
doubles.
that's it. If you
Well,
can't hit the doubles, you're not going to win very much.
looking at this spreadsheet, Michael Van Gerwen is quite literally the longest name. So he is the biggest name.
All right, okay, yeah. Yeah, that's one stat I wasn't too clued up on there.
But yeah, okay. So Michael Van Gerwen, yeah, we're agreed. I don't know. Some people hate arrogance, whatever. But you've got to be a cocky bastard to do well. And part of, I mean, when you apply it to something like boxing, whatever, you've got to tell your opponent that they're going to get annihilated. I'm the best. You've got no chance. And
Yeah.
then it's like when Ronnie O'Sullivan plays snooker. People are so intimidated with the guy, but that's part of mind games when it comes to sport. And if you're telling people that you're the best at something, you've got an advantage right away
Well, you have as long as you've got the ability to back it up.
to
It's all
back it
very
up.
well, yeah. It's
Absolutely.
all well and good saying, oh yeah, I'm the best. If you then get absolutely fucking slaughtered, then yeah, it just makes you look like an idiot.
Yeah, definitely. So, right, what was your number 10 again?
So my number 10, yeah, Rapid Ricky Evans. Now he's not exactly the biggest name in the sport, but I think he is the one of the best players to watch. I don't think he's in the top 32 anymore. I'm not even sure if he has qualified for this year's Worlds, which will be a shame if he hasn't. But yeah, he is the fastest player I've ever seen. And it is me saying that, oh, I don't want to have too many video clips, but I've got to show you this one. If I... Right, let's bring this up. So this, shall I share this? Yeah, it's see if I can sort out this sharing thing. Oh,
Yeah,
not that.
it's present. Yeah, present screen.
Right. Share screen. There we go. That is enabled. Right. So we got that. So yeah, this is Ricky Evans playing Simon Whitlock. Just take a look at this.
You can beat yourself up. But Ricky Evans, since going 2-0 down, has improved.
You're deaf. In contrast, Simon has thrown the odd dart like that one in one. Not been as he was earlier in the game. Well, here we go again. He's got it together, the lad.
I mean,
He was quick then.
the speed of his throw.
6 points higher than Ricky Evans, yet lost it 3-2. It's all about timing.
134.
And he's still got the accuracy.
Yeah,
Simon.
yeah. I can't actually remember what is going on with his hair, by the way. I can't actually remember any platelets. Is he probably one of the fastest dart players, you think?
He's got to be the fastest, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a video. Shall I stop this now, or so you want
Yeah,
to?
that's fine. Yeah, we'll take that off.
There's a video comparing him to good old Terry Downs.
Have you got a
Right.
video? You need to let people see this. This is absolutely priceless. I think there's only one video. Are you checking it just now? Yeah.
I'll
Aye,
take
if you have a wee look for him, just to fill it in. This was a match against Jockey Wilson.
Well, this is a video that someone knocked up. Let's just get it past all of the crappy. It's. Right, here we go. So this compares. Let's share it again. This compares Ricky Evans with Terry Down, right? I can tell you now, Ricky Evans throws 11 darts at the same time that Terry Down throws 1. That's how bad it is. But let's get the share up, and I'm doing exactly what I said I didn't want to do. But there we go. Right. So you got that?
Oh, this is brilliant.
Right, here we go. So this is the comparison. Fucking hell. I'm muting that shit fucking music. Right.
Yeah, it's a 5.
Yeah. So he's thrown 12, 13, 14. At the same time, the other bloke's thrown 2.
That is ridiculous.
There you go. So 20 darts thrown in the same time that the other guy threw 3, and that shows you the difference there.
That was ridiculous. Did Jockey Wilson going to be that guy, by the way? I hope he
No,
did.
Jockey Wilson lost that game, and I think it was entirely because he was playing so slow. Wilson clearly fucking hated it, as I think did most people in the crowd. But it completely threw Wilson's game to shit, you know.
It's all about rhythm, isn't it? It's about rhythm.
Yeah, exactly. It's you know, and it's why some of my favourite players, and I'll include A.D. Lewis in this, they had this really sort of like fluid, rhythmical action when they're throwing, and it is just great to watch.
I mean, when you think about darts, it's just about replicating your wrist action, and you're obviously you're adjusting it ever so slightly if you're going for like double 3 as opposed to double top. It's very, very slight, but it's just replicating it. And you know, when I played darts, I suppose I was quite fast at throwing a dart. I mean, that Terry Dowling, whatever the hell his name is, fucking ridiculous. He's like eyeing up every single dart, and he's taking fucking forever to aim it.
Well, you say that. I mean, yeah, okay, he's taking a fucking eternity, but how is he aiming? Because he's holding his dart up here. You know, the flight of the dart's touching his forehead. How the fuck are you supposed to aim with that?
You know, just when you're talking about Bobby George, who Bobby George always he had it across his face. And
Yeah,
he would
right
throw it
across the face. Yeah.
like that. There was a guy. Do you remember? Oh, what was his second name? He played for Wales. Keris, somebody another with glasses, and he used to kind of hold it like that, and he would go like that, and he would hold it from the side and throw it on. You know, remember him?
I don't remember that one. No.
Keris, somebody another. He had glasses, a beard, and he had the most unorthodox throw you've ever seen. He would actually hold, instead of going like that, like most people, he would actually hold it to the side and he would sort of throw it to the side. Google it. I'll try and remember to put a wee find him. What was his name? Keris, something or other. Fucking hell.
Don't.
Can't remember. And
No,
the guy that I remember, there was a guy called Les Capewell, and he actually had, I think they were wooden darts. They were like the barrel was like massive. I remember me and my dad watching it thinking, what the fuck is he throwing?
Okay, no, I've not seen that either, no.
Les Capewell. I can distinctly remember it. It's etched in my brain. But I'll try and is it not Keris? Keris Matthews is that irritating fucking singer. Keris somebody another. No, I'll find it. I'll need to find it, and I'll put it when this video goes out. I'll hopefully have a wee video of it. But anyway, so yeah, getting back to who are we talking about again?
All right, so Ricky Evans. So yeah, he's got the personality. He's great to watch. I say I love how fast he throws and that. And yeah, so I knew he was going to make it on my list. I wasn't sure how high up. Well, he's only just scraped in at number 10, but definitely a worthwhile inclusion there. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he has actually made it to this year's Worlds, because he always brightens up the event when he's there.
And that's the thing about these games. Like, I mean, snooker's the same. You had guys like Alec Higgins, who was a personality. You never knew what he was going to do next. He played so fast, and that's what people want to see. I mean, you've probably seen the video where Ronnie O'Sullivan does a maximum in the time it took Peter Ebdon to put one ball
to score 11. I think, yeah.
He got
Peter
maximum.
Ebdon was,
I'm sure when Peter
Ebdon was not the best player to watch.
No, I'm sure when Peter Ebdon stood up to take his shot, he had his ponytail, and by the time he took his shot, he was completely bald.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
I'd imagine
Well,
a lot of the crowd being like that as well.
Well, I'll talk about my number 10 then.
All right, so Mike Gregory.
The late Mike Gregory. I'm sad. I'm genuinely saddened to hear that. What did I like about Mike Gregory? I mean, he obviously came to the fore in the Jockey Wilson, Eric Bristol era. I'm going to call it the Jockey Wilson era, even though Eric Bristol won far more. I don't know what it was. There was something really likable about him. Likeable, yeah, about him. I think he was quite a fast thrower as well, and he was just
relatively fast, yeah.
Yeah, but there's something about him I liked. He was a bloody good player, and I was actually quite surprised to see that he's not really won anything. I mean, no, he did take part in the PDC, which I was only when we were talking about that earlier on. I was quite surprised to see that. Who did he get beat by? We were talking about it earlier on. He got beat by somebody or another. And did he take part in the PDC?
I don't remember him ever being in the PDC, but that doesn't mean it never happened.
No, what was his last? I'm going to be saying. Let me have a quick look.
Well, I think he retired from darts for a fair while, because I don't think he ever really recovered from that 92.
92
final
Taylor.
Loss.
Yeah.
After that, it kind of took the wind out of his sails a bit, and he never he never really troubled the events. I think he might have reached the semi-final a few years later, but yeah, he never got back to he never made it to another final, and he certainly didn't win the thing. There
was a lot of players. Like, again, I'm talking about this the classic era of BDO, the mid-80s. There was a lot of players who they would consistently get into the quarterfinals, consistently get into semi-finals, but they just never ever got through into the.
They didn't have that last bit to get them that
Yeah.
extra step. Yeah,
And of course,
quite a few like that.
like any sport, I mean, snooker, the sort of the early 80s, the 80s was the Steve Davis era, then Stephen Henney dominated the 90s, and then Ronnie O'Sullivan. And darts was the same. Obviously, the 80s was primarily Eric Bristol, and then obviously when they moved to the PDC, fucking your pal Phil Taylor.
Yeah, old Taylor,
Yeah, and I mean, it's nice to see when you look at the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. There's been Peter Wright's won it twice. He's won it in the last. He won it in 22 and he won it in 20. But there's lots of different players all vying for the.
There's no one like big dominating name in it now. So like say with the Worlds coming up, I've certainly got no idea who could win it. It could be one of like half a dozen players. Even though the general consensus seems to be that Michael van Gerwen is the favourite, I don't see it. I think there are, there's a fair few that I think could beat him, and I mean, it's literally picking a name out of a hat. I couldn't even begin to say, who I think is going to win it, which makes it, quite interesting. I'd love to see Michael Smith do it again. I don't think he will, but I like. He hasn't had a great year, Michael Smith. I mean, he's world number one. He was obviously defending world champion, so he's got a big old target on his back. Everyone wants to beat him, and I think the pressure is it's really building up on him, and I think he's actually piling on a lot of that pressure on himself. He's making it more difficult for himself than he really should. I know we sort of like strayed into talking about Michael Smith, but let's face it, we both got him on our list, So I've got him at 7, you've got him at 8, so pretty much the same place. He's a great player. He's a great bloke. I do like his attitude. So yeah, when that final last year, I was rooting for him. I didn't think he would do it. It was like, okay, the head's saying, it's we Van Gerwen, but I really wanted to see Smith do it. So when he did, that was fucking fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, he had a bit of a monkey in his back because he'd been beaten in 2 previous finals. You don't want to turn into the Jimmy White's darts. You just can't cross the finishing line. I mean, when did he get? He got beat with Michael van Gerwen in 2019. He got beat 7-3.
Yeah.
And then
he was beaten by Peter Wright, wasn't he?
Peter Wright 7-5. Yeah. Ironically, I'm just looking at there. Ironically, in the 2022, Peter Wright averaged 98.34 and Michael Smith averaged 99. So he actually had a higher average, even though he lost, but probably down to doubles.
Yeah, it was down to doubles. Yeah, Smith, actually, I was saying earlier, there are some players who are great at doubles and some who are a bit shaky. Smith can be a bit shaky on the doubles sometimes. I think that's been one of his problems this year. So it's a pretty major fault, and it's one of the reasons why I think he's probably not going to be winning the title this year. But I'll be quite happy if I'm wrong.
I mean, probably right in saying that any probably the top 10 darts players they're capable of scoring big numbers. It's going to come down to the double at the end of the day. Who would you, in your opinion, would you say is the best at doubles? I mean, I think Van Gerwen, when he was on his game, fucking rarely misses. He's like a robot.
Yeah, when MPG was at his best, like a few years ago, he never missed. Another great doubler, especially like 3 dart checkouts, when he first came to the PDC, was Simon Whitlock. He was taking them out for fun, so a lot of players, if you're leaving a finish that's somewhere between, say, 167 and 151, you think, it's a bit of a tall order. But if he'd left it, it was like, he's got this. And he just did, bang, 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 done. So he was a great one.
did he not check out with like two bullseyes or something like that, or was that Michael Van Gerwen? I'm sure I've seen videos of both them.
I mean, I've seen several of that. You know, if you get like 1-2-5 or 1-3-2 checkout, yeah, you usually end up having to go for two bullseyes. And yeah, I've seen plenty of players doing that.
Yeah. Obviously, Simon Whitlock loses points for his fucking ridiculous haircut. But
I like Simon Whitlock. Yeah, he's all right.
he's a bit of a cantankerous old bugger like yourself, I think, isn't he? He's got a...
Oh, is he? Oh, I didn't know that. He's been plummeting down the rankings. This year, he's actually in the first round of the World Championship. So yeah, he's dropped out of the top 32. And normally, if you're like one of the top 32 there, you're coming into it at the second round, you think, oh, okay, like, yeah, first round opponent, he's not going to be that difficult. You don't want to draw Simon Whitlock as your first game in the Worlds. I mean, all right, he's dropped down the order, but he's still good. He just needs to, actually string some results together. That's been the only problem. But anyway, enough about him because he's not in either of our lists.
So Michael Smith, yeah, I think he's obviously he's a likeable guy, and that's the thing that it's people we like to watch. He comes across as a very, very kind of down to earth, kind of decent bloke, and it was nice to see him.
So speaking of likeable guys, well, bearing in mind anyway that you've just said you want likeable people on the list. How comes Peter Wright has ended up in your list then?
I don't know too much about Peter Wright. I mean, I just think he's a fucking fantastic darts player, and I like the fact that he's flamboyant. I mean, he has talk about bloody. He makes bloody, what's his name, Simon Whitlock look like he's got a straight back and sides, whatever. He has these ridiculous. He needs to have a word with himself and grow up. He's no longer 15, but he's got the big Mohicans and he paints his head and all that. I just like that. I like the whole razzmatazz. He's in it for fun, and he comes across as quite a decent bloke, at least from what I've seen anyway.
Yeah, he didn't always do that with the old Mohicans. If you look in his early days when he was playing in the BDO, he was just like, regular bloke. Do you know why he does that?
No, has he got some illness or something or what?
Well, he has chronic stage fright. He is absolutely terrified when he's up on that stage. So he adopted like this sort of completely outrageous, ridiculous persona. And basically when he's up on the stage there, it's not him. It's this sort of like character that he sort of like adopts. And that's how he gets over his stage fright. And he's said in interviews before, if he hadn't done that, he would have had to have quit the game because he just could not cope with the stage fright he had. Yeah. But yeah, you listen to him, and it's like, yeah, okay, so this bloke, clearly Norfolk, Suffolk sort of way, and then he represents Scotland in the World Cup. But in fact, he was actually born in Scotland. Which is right, yeah. He comes from a part of Scotland which apparently is an absolute festering shit pit.
That doesn't narrow it down any.
Well, yeah. Apparently, everyone who lives there is the right cunt. Somewhere called Livingston. You may have heard of it. But yeah, that's where he's from. So yeah. So, well, he was born there. Chances are he probably sort of like, him and his family probably left when he was like not even 1 year old. Yeah, but yeah, that's where he was born.
I take it you didn't know that that's where I'm born as well, and that's where I live.
Yes, I did know that's where you were.
I thought you were on the piss there, mate.
As if I would do anything like that. Fuck you, no.
I didn't realise that. You know what, actually, I think more of him, the fact that he's got chronic stage fright and he does that. I just think guys like that are good for the game. You look at snooker and it's fucking all these bloody Chinese players and all these, they're just boring as hell. You like a bit of flamboyancy, so that's why he's on my list, and he's a fucking good player as well. I mean, he's won it twice out the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And I know it's not about success, but he's for having stage fright, he's doing all right. I mean, 102.79 he got in 2020, and then he dropped slightly, 98.34.
Yeah, but I mean, it was but it was still good enough to win the thing. So you know, you only need to play as well as you know, good enough to beat the person you're up against. So, yeah, I did actually when I first heard about his stage fright and that. My opinion of Peter Wright mellowed a bit because I was I really didn't like the cunt and. So yeah, I warmed to him a bit more. Also, he was on stage playing the night that Eric Bristow died, and they found out about it just as he was going on stage to play. And he was playing Daryl Gurney in the Premier League, and he just about kept it together while they were playing. It finished a draw 7-7, and at the end of it, he just broke down something fierce. He must have been struggling during that.
Yeah, I'm sure Eric Bristow was he not on his way to some darts tournament?
No, he was there at that event because he worked for Sky as like the spotter. So he was actually there in Liverpool with the rest of the Sky team when it happened. So not a good night. Let's face it. Well, I suspect we'll be talking a bit more about Eric Bristow later on.
I think we might. Yeah.
Right. So another name. My number 9, Paul Lim. Let's face it, he is there because his place in darting history is absolutely assured. The first ever live 9-darter, the first 9-darter in the World Championship, not the first televised 9-darter, mind you, but the first one that was live.
Yeah, that's right. When I was preparing all these stats earlier on today, it came up BDO 9-darter Paul Lim, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, where's John Lowe? But he was at the World Match Play, and it was recorded, but it wasn't shown live.
Yeah, that's it. So that was the first televised 9-darter, but it wasn't live. So the fact that he did that, and then was it last year, or actually I think it was last year. Paul Lim now he doesn't represent USA anymore. He represents Singapore, which is where he's actually from. And he was 8 darts into a second 9-darter. This bloke I think he's 70 now, and he's still playing darts. And he's clearly still playing at half-decent level, because this was at the Worlds again. He'd qualified yet again, and I think he might even be back there again this year. And he was 8 darts into a 9-darter. He just missed the double 12. He was gutted.
That's incredible.
And he was playing Gary Anderson, and I reckon Gary Anderson was the most gutted of everybody when he was standing there watching. We were talking about people being bad losers. Gary Anderson, for the most part, is not a bad loser. He's okay with it. He does have quite a lot of other flaws, though, so he's not on my list anywhere. But yeah, Paul Lim, his place in darting history is without question.
I mean, he was playing. I mean, I can still remember Paul Lim. I'm sure he always wore a yellow T-shirt, didn't he? It was really yellow.
He did when he got that 9-darter. He doesn't anymore. I'm trying to remember who he was playing. I know it was an Irish fella. I think it was Paul Kenner or something like that. I can't remember. Something along them lines. And it was just great. The only thing that ruined it was Tony Green's commentary, which was cringing, as it always is. He's a terrible commentator, isn't he, Tony Green?
Yeah, we've not really touched. We mentioned Sid Waddell earlier on. I mean, he's just the king of the commentator. You put him, he could, as I said, he did. He commentated on bloody Shove Halfpenny. I'm sure that'd have been enthralling. I'm sure if Shove Halfpenny was to come out the pub, Sky would be all over it like a bloody rash. But
the best commentary duo in any sport was Yeah, Sid Waddell and John Gwynn. Now, when those two were commentating together, it was fucking television gold. Sadly, neither of them are still with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, their enthusiasm for darts was absolutely infectious. I don't care how much you may claim not to like darts. If you were watching it and had those two commentating, you'd be into it big time.
Yeah. Maybe
So,
that's what they need to, I was going to say they need to get him onto the snooker. It's going to be hard, obviously, but yeah, it's just. I mean, some of these. I'm sure there's probably YouTube videos of like quotes that he said. I mean, there was like John Thomas Wilson rocking on the hockey, jockey on the hockey, and all that. It was just brilliant. It was just, and he must. I don't know what his background was. Was he a journalist or something? Or
no, he was a fucking. Professor, wasn't he? He was, I think, he was a history professor. He had a PhD in, something to it. It was either history or classics, but something with like the historical thing, which is why so many of his quotes, of course, were always referring to like historical names and that. Because a lot of people would say, "Oh, listen to this bloke. He's talking absolute crap. The bloke's obviously a bloody idiot." He fucking well was not an idiot. He knew exactly what he was saying. He knew the audience, and he played the audience perfectly. And I thought it was great. I will never hear a bad word said about Sid Waddell.
Aye. No, he was the best commentator, bar none.
Yeah.
So Paul Lim, yeah, I mean, obviously he was, back in the 80s, there weren't most players were either Welsh, English, Scottish, or bloody Irish.
Well, you had a few Dutch players back then and a few Canadians, but for the most part, it was all from the British Isles.
And so to have somebody. I mean, he represented America. I don't recall any other American players at that time.
I know there were a few. I can't remember any of the names because the fact that they were American meant I didn't really give a monkey's toss. But you know me in America, we don't exactly mix well.
So why is he on your list for what he's achieved in the game?
I mean, that does play a fair part of it, but he is such a likeable bloke. Where you see his interviews, and the crowds always love him because of him doing that 9-darter. And the fact that he's still playing to a fucking decent standard, and he's now 70. So whenever he appears in an event, the crowds love him. They're all big fans. Yeah. He is quite slow. I suppose you can understand it being fucking 70, but he is quite a slow player. I think he's probably the slowest player on my list, but I'm more than okay with ignoring the slowness factor because it's him.
I mean, there can't be many players that have got the longevity of something like him. I mean, when did he start playing? Probably the early 80s, and he's still playing in 2022 or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think any other player comes close to the longevity of him. I don't even think like Leighton Reese has the longevity that Paul Lim had, because I mean Leighton Reese was around for a good old while. I mean, he was obviously first world champion in '78, was it? But he'd been playing long before then, and he was still taking part in BDO events in '89. So he had longevity, but I think Paul Lim is even going even longer than he was.
Yeah, he was a definite legend. So that was your number.
That was my number 9, Paul Lim. Have a look through your list. We've only got one name left to cover on your list, and it's the one that I'm a little bit reluctant to say because he does appear on my list, but a bit later on as Barney.
I'll tell you what. Do you want to reveal where he is, or do you want to keep that under your?
Well, I've got Raymond van Barneveld is number 4 on mine, so I rate him a lot. He has a great throwing action. And when you think about, you know, like you were saying earlier, darts is a very rhythmic sport, and you want to be playing it at a decent pace. You don't want to be playing it like really slow and anything like that, because it's boring to watch when it's a really slow player, as we saw earlier with old Terry Down. But yeah, Barney made the game look ridiculously easy. You saw him; he looked like it was completely effortless when he was throwing, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this game can't be that difficult then. Of course, you can't try it. It's like, okay, yes, it is. Yeah, he was great. Well past his prime now, unfortunately. And the other unfortunate thing is when he starts to lose, his head drops something fierce. It's like he gives up.
That's an interesting thing. There are some players. It's probably the same in snooker or a lot of things, but there are players who, when they're winning, they just get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
But when they start losing, their heads go down and they start to crumble. And I think you're right. I think Barney was guilty of that.
Yeah, he as a front runner, he was second to nobody. I think as a front runner, he was even better than Taylor. But yeah, if you stayed close to him, or worse still, if you managed to get ahead of him, yeah, that was when he wilted, which was a shame.
I mean, I'm looking at the stats for the BDO. He actually finished in second place behind a certain English Cockney, Raymond Barneveld. He won 4. Wait a minute, have I got this talking? Did he win 4 BDOs and he lost?
Well, he won
2.
He won 1 PDC, and I think he certainly won at least 2 BDOs.
Wait a minute, hang on, let me have a look. Raymond Van Berneveld. There we go. Right, Raymond Van Berneveld. I can't even bloody speak. He won.
Barney.
He won
Yeah.
Barney. He won he won the BDO in 98, 99, 2003, 2005, and then he beat Phil Taylor in PDC in 2007.
Yeah, a lot of people consider that to be the best final. Oh, it was a great final, but I wouldn't say it was the best. It's not up there with 89.
But what's impressive, by the way, once we finish talking about Barney, I want to let you see a video. Barney also came runner-up. He got beat with Richie Burnett in 1995 in the BDO.
Yeah, I remember that game, because I cannot stand Richie Burnett. He is such a wanker, that bloke. I was rooting for Barney that night.
Apparently, I saw a video fairly recently of Richie Burnett. Well, I'm saying recently. I watched it recently, but I think it was maybe a few years ago. And he couldn't hit a bloody barn door. But I think he'd, don't want to make you feel bad, but I don't know if he had a stroke or something. But I think something happened to him. And he was like, he's just going to shit.
I know he had a lot of issues off the board.
Yeah.
He didn't have a hell of a lot of sympathy, though, because, he sort of made his bed sort of thing. It was like he was intentionally coming across as, the arsehole of darts, and he was quite happy about it, and fuck knows why. Yeah, I know he did have a lot of issues. I don't know if any of them were health issues or not, but I know he had a lot of things going on.
I think, in fact, it might have just been the yips that you're talking about, because he was quite literally he was getting like treble 1, 1, 5, and folk were like, what the fuck? It was like embarrassing to watch.
Yeah, well, the thing is, of course, while that's happening, the crowd are all loving it. They all wanted to see him lose big time. So, of course, and that would just wind him up even more. So, yeah, it did backfire, this whole thing of, I'm going to be the cunt of darts, great move.
But, yeah, Barney, he lost to Jelle Clayson in 2006.
Jelle Clayson, that's a bit of a... his reputation nosedived big time. Well, he got caught sending knob photos to underage girls, so his reputation absolutely fucking plummeted.
Jesus, so he doesn't appear in the scene anymore, eh?
Not very often, no.
Not in the dart scene. And then he lost to, he actually got fucking hammered. Barney got hammered with Phil Taylor in 2009. He got beat 7-1. And Raymond was only averaging 101.18 at that point.
Exactly. I mean, so you're averaging 101 and you
And you're getting
lose
beat
7-1. Oh,
But then
fuck it hell.
Phil Taylor was, I think that's the highest. He was at 110.94, which is almost 111, which is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, how the fuck are you supposed to compete with someone, averaging that? You just can't do it.
And the thing is, darts it's not like a boxing match where, if you're fucking doing well, the other guy's got black and blue. You could get annihilated. I mean, he got beat 7-1, 7-1. He might have lost every set 3-2.
Yeah,
you don't know. It might have been, only a matter of legs. It might have only been 6 legs difference.
That's one of the reasons why I really like set play, because so many of the tournaments now are just match play, and it is just legs. I much prefer set play. That was something I was going to ask you actually. Do you prefer set play or match play?
What's the difference? Set play is the first.
So set play is, you get 3 legs and then you win the set. Match play is just legs.
Just legs. I think. I think they can be. I don't know.
I mean, I like both. Don't say, don't get me wrong. I think they're both great, but I do prefer set play.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I suppose it's harder if you're a better player. Then it's if you're a. I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, it's if you're playing somebody of an equal sort of ability, then match play is going to be more touch and go. Whereas set play, somebody can be playing really well and suddenly they're three sets to 0 down. You're like, fucking hell, it's all over, and then they start to come back. So it can be kind of potentially more exciting. Right, before we move on to this, I want to let you see I was partially right with this guy, and this is a video called "Dart Player with a Strange Throw," and you'll know who I'm talking about in a second once I. Hang on a second.
It's not Terry Dowd again, is it? I can't take seeing him more than once.
Wait a minute. Oh, what's going on? See your screen. There we go. Right, allow. It's Kerry Morgan. You must have seen him before.
I don't remember the name, but I mean,
you'll
maybe
soon
I'll
recognise
when the throw comes along.
So you kind of throws from the side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he hit the double first time there, so,
He was actually not a bad player.
I mean, it does actually highlight something with darts. You know, a lot of sports, you've been using snooker as an example quite often, and this is one where it really does apply. You get all these like coaching manuals, and they all tell you the same thing. You know, you've got to be standing in a certain way, you've got to, be queuing in a certain way, and all this bollocks. Darts, you cannot do that in darts. It is entirely down to just what feels natural and what feels right for you. There are very few players that have the same throw. The closest I can think of is your favourite A.D. Lewis and Barney. Those two have quite a similar sort of throw there. But the rest of the time, all the players, it's just so much variation in the way they throw. And some of them are just fucking weird, like that one we just seen, and of course the dreaded Terry Down. But it works for them, so you can't say it's wrong. It's just that it looks awful,
Aye, some players shouldn't be good when you look at their. I mean. Well, we're probably going to talk about him later on. Jockey Wilson, Eric Bristol.
Jockey Wilson was the prime example. You look at the way he throws, you think it's a miracle that he even hits the fucking ball.
He was like the classic snatch. He would actually fall forwards as he's throwing the dart, and sometimes I mean he would be on for he'd be 2 treble 20s. And then he'd get a fucking single 3. He's like, what the fuck? Because he would just hold on to that. He was launch it. You know, so if you're going to learn to play darts, don't look at Jockey Wilson. Look at probably Raymond Barneveld or even Adrian Lewis, whatever. They've got a nice skinny. That's how you should deliver a dart.
It was always his third dart with Jockey Wilson as well. The first two, it was like fucking yeah, but the third one, it's like you are joking, man.
We'll talk about him later on. I'm quite sure.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I think I've covered all mine.
I've still got a couple. I've still got a couple of mine. So right, Stephen Bunting. He's one of those players. Okay, he won the BDO in. You were saying earlier. I thought it was 2016. I think it was a bit earlier.
2014 it was.
Yeah, 2014. He's one of those where, he's certainly like a decent player. I mean, he's top 32 in PDC, but he's just such a likable bloke. I can't say anything bad about him. I don't think he's ever going to trouble the top 8 in in the PDC, but he's had some pretty good runs in tournaments this year. And I don't think it was last year, but the year before at the Worlds, he got through to at least the quarterfinals. So he can have a run of decent results. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he does all right at this tournament. I think he could. I think he'll certainly get to quarterfinalist. May even make it to a semi-final. Don't think he'll get to a final. Certainly don't think he'll win it. But good player. I just really like watching him. So he's a bit low on my list because there's not a hell of a lot you can really sort of like say about him. But there's just something about him I do like watching him play. He's all right.
What was his kind of best result in the PDC then?
I think he made it to. Well, I know he's won some like small events. I don't know if any of them were televised. In televised events, I know he's made it to a couple of semi-finals. So I mean, you've got to be like half decent if you're going to make it to a semi-final of a PDC event. I just really like the bloke. So I thought he deserves a place on my list.
He's a bloody nice bloke, in other words,
yeah. So that leaves the last name on from 10 to 6 at number 6. James Wade. I actually thought he'd be on your list. I mean, it might be that you've got him a bit higher up. I don't know. The fact that you're a bit quiet there, I think you have got him on yours. So. But he deserves to be on the list. I mean, he's been in the top 8 for about the last 20 years, and he was in the top 4 for at least half that time. So he has definitely got the ability. He's a bit of a nutter, but he freely admits it. He does have some mental health issues. I think he's bipolar. So it has resulted in a few sort of like negative, shall we say, press stories about him and all that. But he doesn't let any of that bother him. He just gets on with it, which is fine.
Lets his stars do the talking.
That's it.
Did he play in the BDO at any point? I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he did play in the BDO. I think I've seen a few videos of him there. I think he made it to a final at some point, but he never won the world for the BDO. If he didn't get to the final, it was definitely a semi-final.
Oh, he's certainly never won it.
No, so not. He's never won a world title. He's never got to the
final either. He's never got to any final either. So
it must have been a semi-final I'd seen him in. But I mean, he's got to be the best player to have never won a world championship.
Aye. That's the thing, though. I mean, there's so many guys that are playing at such a high standard that you could consistently get to like semis, whatever, and just not have that extra kind of killer instinct to actually win the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously he's never. If you looked at on stats alone, he wouldn't even feature in this because his name doesn't appear. He's never got to a final. We're only talking about the best. There are obviously other tournaments. There's the Premier League and all that kind of stuff, but we're based purely on this.
Yeah, I mean he's won plenty of other televised events, you know, so he is certainly good enough. I don't know why he's not been able to crack, the Worlds, because he's easily good enough to win the world title, easily. He's one of those players where you can never rule him out of winning the thing. And this year, very much included, I would say. I think he's now dropped down a few places, so I think he's now ranked number 10. I think that rank is way too low. I think he's still a top 4 player, and yeah, I wouldn't be remotely surprised if he won it this year.
Yeah. Do you think that like form comes into it? I mean, you know, obviously.
Oh
yeah. So you can be on a good running form coming into a tournament. And you're constantly playing well.
Yeah, we got a prime example of that at the moment in the PDC. We've got a player, Luke Humphreys. I'm not a big fan of his. I think he's like watching paint dry. But he's won like the last 2 or 3 televised events, so he is absolutely in a run of form at the moment. A lot of people are tipping him to win it. I don't think he stands a chance. He's just, I don't think he's quite got it, but a lot of people seem to think he can.
So as James Wade, he's not even featuring in the favourites to win this year or next year.
No, but then he never does sort of like feature in amongst the favourites. You know, you never hear people talking up, oh yeah, James Wade, he's the one to watch this year. You never hear anyone say that, and yet he still is always there or thereabouts. So I'd say I wouldn't be remotely surprised if he did it.
Was it not last year he got beaten? I can't even remember who did he play in the semis, and I think they really thought that he was going to win, and he didn't play that well.
It wasn't last. It certainly wasn't last year, because last year he had a fucking disaster. He went out in his first match.
Right. It must have been the year before then.
I think. I mean, there have been a few times he's made it to the semis.
Well, 2022. 2022. It was Peter Wright and Michael Smith were in the final. So he got beat by one of them, did he?
It must have been. Yeah, I suspect it was Peter Wright. Because I think it was Peter Wright. Because I was exceptionally pissed off about it. And if it had been Michael Smith that beat him, I'd be like, oh, that's okay. I really hated the result. So yeah, I think it was Peter Wright.
So do you reckon he's one of these players that he can turn up and he forgets his game sometimes?
It can happen. Yeah. Because of his mental problems, it can happen. But he's certainly not the sort of player that would use that as an excuse. You know, he would just say, I came in and I got beaten. It's as simple as that. You know, he's despite all the like negative press about him, he is actually quite laid back. You've got to catch him at the right sort of like time and that, and you know. So yeah, when he gets beaten, it's like, yeah, I got beat. You know, he doesn't take it too badly.
I know he seems like an honest, normal bloke. I think when you hear him getting interviewed, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, and he does share one thing. It's about the only thing that he shares with my darts playing. He will always go for either tops or tens. He almost never goes for double 16.
Is that right?
Yeah. And that's my dart playing. That is, yeah. If I'm looking for a finish, I go for tops. I'm no good on I'm straying a bit here, but when I'm playing, I am absolutely hopeless anywhere on the left-hand side of the board. So double 16, I know it's the one that everyone tries to finish on. I don't go anywhere near it because I'm just that awful on it.
Yeah, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Yeah, I'm right.
Right-handed, yeah, because I suppose if you're thrown to, like, I don't know, is it double 11? If you're thrown to the right-hand side, then obviously it lends itself better. Whereas if you're going for double 16, you're thrown across the board. I think it's easier to either overcompensate and throw to the left of the double, or else more likely you're going to end up getting a single 16 or something.
Yeah, I mean there are some doubles that like every player. Some doubles I'm just a lot better at than others, and some are doubles that most players would avoid. My favourite double is actually double 15, and you will never hear a player saying, "Oh yeah, I want to leave double 15." You know, so
I think,
yeah,
going back, I think I quite like double 10 actually. Double top is it's quite a difficult double to hit because there's so little room for error. If it dips by even 1 centimetre, you've missed.
Well, I mean, you could say that about every double on the board, though, couldn't you? You know,
Double 6, but double 6 is, well, yeah. I suppose I'm thinking purely vertical. Double 6, you've got a lot bigger chance to hit it because you can either be there or there. But yeah, what's your worst double? Double 3, do you think?
worst double. Actually, no. I'm one of the very few that doesn't mind double 3. My worst is probably, thankfully, it's one that I very rarely got left on. Double 11. That was my worst one. It's a horrible double, and of course it's right at the furthest to the left.
Of course it is. Double 6 is the other side. Yeah.
So yeah, double 11, a horrible one. What about yours?
There we go, folks. So that is our top. That is our 10 to number 6.
Yeah.
We will be back in a Vimto second to find out our top 5 darts players.
Yeah.
Right, anyway, yeah, there you go. That is Lukozer and my top 10 down to number 6 of our favourite darts players. So, yeah, it just leaves the last 5. Now, how do you want to do this? How do you want to do it? Do you want to just do it in...
Is this how it goes now? You know, it's your video, but you leave the other person to decide how it's going to actually... Well, let's do number 5 to... shall we just do the top 5? If I just read out my top 5 and then you read out yours?
No, I tell you what. I think what we should do. Why don't we? You read out 5, 4, 3. I'll do my 5, 4, 3. We'll talk about them, and then you can do number 2. And then I'll do 2 and then 1. Yeah, just.
Okay. All right then. Because
right,
I am still convinced that our numbers 1 and 2 are going to be identical. I suspect actually your number 3 is going to be the same as mine as well, but we're about to find out.
Possibly predictable, but we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, my top 3 are as predictable as it gets, believe me. But for good reason, as we will discuss. And you already know one of my top 5 already. From earlier. I was going to say from yesterday. Well, I've kind of blown that now. Yeah. But yeah, for anyone watching, it's now the next day. But oh well. Right. Anyway, onwards then. So, at number 5, I have Anderson, but not Gary. It's Bob Anderson.
Ah, okay.
Oh, you're going to say something?
No, you go for number 5 to 3 here.
Right, okay. At number 4 is Raymond van Barneveld, which you knew. And at number 3, the first of the very obvious ones, is John Lowe.
Okay, well, I'm partially going to duplicate what you've got. I have got Mr. Anderson in number 5th, but it's my fellow countryman, Mr. Gary Anderson.
It's Gary, is it? Okay, right.
Number 4, couldn't leave him out of this list. Bobby George.
All right.
And yeah, and number 3 is he was the first one to do not a live televised, but he did a 9-darter, and it's John Lowe.
Yeah. Let's face it, our top 3 are the same, aren't they?
Good minds. The thing is, we've come from a different angle, and well, I don't know. We're assuming we're going to be picking the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting that we're both thinking along the same lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bob Anderson. Why is he on your list?
I mean, he's just the greatest personality, and when it came to, I mean, his big year was '88, because in that year every major final was always Bob Anderson versus John Lowe, every single one. I mean, he was ranked number 1 in the world at that time. And of course Bob Anderson won it. He won the world that year. Okay, it's the one and only time, but I mean, oh dear, only winning it once. It still shows you are fucking good enough. But yeah, I mean, he's great personality, great dart player. He always comes across actually as being a bit sort of aggressive when he's playing. When he hits it, and he does his at the board.
That's right, yeah.
But I mean, he's just like one of the nicest blokes you could ever meet. So his aggression is purely all show, for the crowd, and of course the crowd love it. And with his nickname was it Rhinestone Cowboy. There was that infamous occasion, I think it was with the PDC, that they had him coming in doing his walk on a horse. Which proved to be it proved to be a total fucking disaster. Yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of his. Oh dear, I mean, I remember seeing him back in the sort of like mid-80s. He was already like, a pretty decent player then. Yeah. But then he really did step up in '88, and even though he never replicated that kind of form, he was always there or thereabouts. I've just always been a fan of him.
To be honest, he's a guy I kind of didn't even consider for this list, but yeah, as you say, he was up there. I mean, there were so many bloody good players who just never managed to kind of get over the line, but he managed it. I said he beat John Lowe 6-4. You must be impressed with all these stats that I'm just bringing out. This is impressive.
Yeah, certainly helps when you've got, was it a Google spreadsheet or something right in front of you?
I just imported it straight across into Excel, so I can do.
Yeah.
Where am I? Bob Anderson. It was
not all from memory then.
I'd love to say it was. He won 6-4. He averaged 92.7. John Lowe was 92.07.
There you go, 92. I mean, you would not stand a fucking prayer of winning a final with a 92 average now. It just shows. But, I mean, it's not like it wasn't as good to watch. It was still every bit as great watching it back then. Even though they weren't, I mean, nowadays you can guarantee there's going to be at least 180 every leg. The chances of a 9-darter have absolutely skyrocketed. I'm expecting at least 2 in this year's World Championships. Mm-hmm. Back then, no, 9-darters were, like hen's teeth, and as long as your average was in the 90s, you had a fucking good chance.
It's interesting. I'm looking. I mean, I've got a list here of every BDO final and then every PDC final. So in total, there are 73 finals, and 94.7 is probably about in the middle. I mean, there's a guy. Let's have a quick look. There's a John Part. He was BDO champion Canadian. In 1994. Yeah. He averaged 82.44.
I mean, that's horrendous, isn't it? Jesus Christ.
And he actually beat Bobby George, who averaged 80.31. He beat him 6-0.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a great final, that, does
No,
it?
that was 1994. That was, yeah.
I don't remember it too well. I mean, John Pop is, I think he's 3 times world champion. I think he won it in 2003, and he won it another year as well. Those two are obviously PDC. So he's obviously a bit useful, but he is sort of Mr. Boring, I think, John Part, and he has the most cringingly awful nickname in darts, doesn't he?
What is that?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you'll remember it when I say it. Yeah, he is the dreaded Darth Maple. What the fucking hell are you talking about? Yeah, that is the worst nickname in darts by a fucking long way.
I was laughing when I was down at the playing pool tonight. The darts was on, and there's all these people, and they've all got the big shirts. And there's this wee girl. She looks about 15. She was called, what was it, the Diva? You're like, fucking hell.
Yeah. You got to go somewhere to, well, actually, I was going to say you got to go some to be known as the diva in darts these days, but actually, no, that's not the case. There are a few divas in darts at the moment, that's for sure. Gerwyn Price instantly springs to mind. I cannot stand that cunt. But I mean, and even MVG is going a bit sort of like diva in a way, and a Coxfield Taylor did. So yeah, we got enough divas in darts. We don't need another one, you know.
What's interesting about John? So I know we're going off topic. Well, we're not off topic. We're talking about somebody different.
We're not talking about Bob Anderson, yeah, but yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, John Part, I said he won it in 1994. He averaged 82.44, but he then went on to beat Phil Taylor in the PDC in 2003, and he beat him 7-6. And ironically, John Part got averaged 96.87. Phil Taylor was 99.98. So, and yet John Part won 7-6, and then John Part then won it again in 2008. So that's I mean, considering he won it in 94, and then what would that be? 14 years later, he won it again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was quite inconsistent. He was always sort of like, you know, going up and down the rankings like a fucking yo-yo. And I think after that 2008 victory, he's just plummeted. And, you know, yeah. And he doesn't play anymore.
He's just commentary, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah. Him and Wayne Mardle, when they're together. I didn't like Wayne Mardle as a player, but I do like him as a commentator. I think he's great.
Yeah. Not up there with Sid Waddell right enough.
Oh, no.
You'll never get that. Anyway, yeah, Bob Anderson. Yeah, I did. I mean, he was always on the fringes of, you know, the sort of BDO, and as you say, it was. I think people like to see people who get emotional. You're talking about Gerwyn Price and all that. Yeah, you might not like the guy, but people love a baddie. People love to see people reacting. And Bob Anderson did do that, as you say. He always pointed when anytime he got a 180, he pointed at it. But I think I actually watched. He was playing. I think he plays in like the seniors. I'm sure he still.
Yeah, I think he does. Yeah. He's still going. He was actually. Do you remember? I think it was about a week ago. I messaged you and I said, "Oh fuck, I've got to change my list because I just remembered another name." Yeah, that was when I remembered Bob Anderson. I was like, "Fucking hell, I can't leave him out," you know.
So did you have to relegate somebody? Did somebody get kicked out, or was that?
I had to push everyone down, and Simon Whitlock got pushed out of the list. So yeah.
Again, looking at the stats, I don't think Bob Anderson didn't get to any other finals. So he got to one final in '88, and obviously he won it.
Yeah, I mean that year, say him and John Lowe were wiping the floor with everybody. Those two were far and away the two best players. I mean, even the likes of Eric and Jockey were getting nowhere near him, you know. And everyone thought that Bristow was sort of like on the way down. We weren't going to hear much more from him again. But they also all certainly thought that Jockey's best days were behind him because, I mean, he won it in '82, and you know, here we are 5 years later, and he was like almost nowhere. Of course, he proved people wrong, you know, the following year. So,
yeah, I think there was, if I remember rightly, was there not quite a bit of needle? Although there again, there was needle with anyone that Eric Bristow played. Was there not a bit of needle between Bob Anderson and Eric Bristow? Did they not hate each other?
I don't think they hated each other, no. But yeah, I mean, like you say, there was needle every time whenever Bristow was playing. But again, that was purely on the stage, you know. But behind it, you know, once they got off the stage and that, he was all right. Bristow was quite misunderstood, I think, by a lot of people. He wasn't well, okay, yeah, he was a bit arrogant, but he wasn't anywhere near as bad as a lot of people would assume he was, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he absolutely put Kenny darts on the map. You know, he was this larger than life character, and of course he was like the posh and Bex, the darts. Him and was it Maureen Flowers?
Yeah.
Did you ever? We should. I don't want to offend anybody, but when you watch some of the women's darts back then, it was bloody awful. Like,
oh yeah, yes, yeah, it weren't great.
Anyway,
I mean, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the women's darts at the moment either. They are nowhere near the level of the men's darts, you know. Oh, we're not supposed to say that, are we? Yeah, we're supposed to say how fucking great they are. There was a video I saw a few days ago. It only just come out. Bo Greaves, who's the current like big thing in women's darts, and they're like, "Oh, look at this fantastic video. She does a 10 darter." Like, yeah, I've seen plenty of 10 darters. Do a 9 darter, then we're talking. No, 10 darter, fantastic. Right, okay.
What about that wee blonde lassie, Shorrock or Sherrick, whatever? Is she qualified for the?
Yeah, she has qualified. Speaking of which, I also did a bit of checking. I was saying earlier in the video, shall we say, I wasn't sure if Ricky Evans had qualified for this year's World Championship. Yes, he has. So we'll get to see him probably in the earlier rounds. I don't think he's going to get like hugely far. Love to see him do so, but yeah, I don't think he will.
It's interesting that you sent me that video earlier on when he got, was it like 2.6 seconds a 180. I wonder if he would play better if he slowed down. I mean, I know it's about sort of.
I don't think he would.
Yeah.
I think the way he plays it, it's purely muscle memory, and somehow he is able to get his release in exactly the same position as like the previous dart. He's got that muscle memory down, absolutely perfected. If he can just get his consistency up a bit more, then he would go really far. But I don't think it would be good for his game to slow down any, and I don't think he would consider it either.
Yeah, has he won any kind of big tournaments?
No, I don't think he has. He's won like a couple of the smaller ones, you know, that don't have any of the crowds. But he hasn't won any like televised event or anything.
How many actually take part in the PDC? Is it 64 or something? Or is it more?
Oh no, there's a lot more than that. I think it goes up to 200s. I think once you go below 128, you've then got to go through the Q school. But so most events I think will only have like 64, but they do have at least 128 in their like rankings. Yeah,
I think a lot of the qualifyings is just done behind closed doors, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, an interesting thing. My sister works at a high school in West Calder, and there's a young boy, a Scottish guy, and now what is he? He's either, I think he's like shit hot at bowls, like, you know, as in not 10-pin bowling, bowls.
Crown Green.
What's that?
Crown Green bowls rather than
it's something like that. But he can also play darts, and he got a 9 darter He got a 9-darter a couple of years ago in some tournament. He was about 15 years old.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be pretty fucking good to hit a 9-darter. Yeah,
He got a
yeah.
9-darter. I'm sure there's a video. I'm sure there's a YouTube video because my sister said it to me. Oh, this wee guy, he was at school. He was at school a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember one time I was actually on for a 9-darter. Trouble was I missed the first treble 20. No.
Oh, really? Yeah.
If I hadn't done that, I was on.
Nah, never came close. Anyway, that was your number.
That's my Mr. Anderson. So yeah, we have your Mr. Anderson, Gary.
Gary Anderson. Now, I says I'm fairly, like I said, I kind of lost interest. Well, I didn't so much lose interest in darts. I physically I wasn't interested in watching the BDO because all the big names had left. They'd all departed to Sky.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm not going to watch this anymore because all the guys that I liked had effectively left. I think Raymond Barneville was still playing at that point. But that was it. There was no Eric Bristows or any of these guys, Keith Dellers, they were all gone. So I lost interest, and then I thought, well, that only returned to darts maybe about 3-4 years ago. And Gary Anderson, I mean, because I hadn't been watching it, he was, oh, this guy's Scottish. The funny thing is, he's a spitting image of an old next door neighbour of mine. Every time I saw him, I thought, that's Gary Anderson. But why is he on the list? Well, he's Scottish, but I know you said something contrary to this, but anytime I see him getting interviewed, I think he comes across as quite a decent guy, and he can throw a dart as well. I mean, his consistency can either be shit hot or a bit shit.
Yeah, his best days are behind him. There's no doubt about that. Although he does seem to be a lot of people's outside bet for doing quite well here. Yeah, his best days are behind him. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he was 2 times world champion, so you know he obviously had to be fucking good. And when he was on his game, he was great to watch. He was. I wouldn't put him quite up there with like Barney and A.D. Lewis as far as like his train action, but he ain't far off it. But he maybe not quite so much, right now at the present day, but certainly for a good 2 or 3 years. He was a fucking miserable sod. He was moaning about everything and everyone, and he was starting to test the patience of a lot of darts fans. And I think what's happened is he's realised that he was doing that, and a lot of people who were fans of him were suddenly thinking, oh, bollocks to him, because all he does is fucking moan. I mean, can you imagine having to put up with a cunt like that? So that one seemed to go over your head. I know, there you go. So yeah, I think he's dropped all of the complaining and all that now. So yeah, so he's going up again in people's estimates, and his playing is improving again. So he's a lot of people. Gary Anderson is a pretty good outside bet to get pretty far in this year's World Championship.
I was going to say you wouldn't. I mean, he's an outside chance. As I said, for the little that I have seen him playing, when he's on his game, he's very precise. He's got the same throwing action. And I think am I right in thinking that he's one of these guys. He's not beaten until he's beaten. I mean, has he not done some quite good comebacks in the past?
Oh yeah. He's not like Barney. It doesn't care how far behind he is. He will not give up. If you're going to beat him, you've really got to beat him, because up until you've hit that last double to win the match, he is right there. He will just keep on going, even if he's like 6 sets behind you. He is not giving up. That's one thing that you can definitely say in Gary Anderson's favour. Yeah, definitely.
Quite tenacious. Yeah, I mean, again, looking at it there, he won it in 2015 and 2016. He beat Phil Taylor, your pal, 7-6. I don't know. I didn't see that final. I don't know how it kind of went.
I remember that final because I was rooting for Anderson purely because I can't stand Taylor, But yeah.
again, Taylor had Phil Taylor. He had 100.69. Gary Anderson was 97.68. But it's about hitting doubles and all that. And then he beat Adrian Lewis 7-5. I can imagine there would have been a bit of needle between the pair of them because Adrian Lewis, he seems to. I remember thinking, you're an absolute cunt. And then I watched a video. He was getting interviewed, and I thought he's an alright guy, but he's quite a miserable looking bastard. He's a big guy, he's like a big bear. He's quite dour looking, and he does seem to. Again, he seems to. I might have been, it was like him and Gerwin Price. I can't remember, but there was a lot of needle going on. And
there was a hell of a lot of needle between A.D. Lewis and Gerwin Price. They can't stand each other.
Yeah.
A.D. Lewis is actually taking a year out. He's not going to be at this year's World Championship.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's taking some time out. Apparently, I think it's his wife has some quite serious health problems. So he's he's out of it to take care of things there. But he says he'll be back, but he's plummeted so far down the rankings. I don't think we'll be seeing him back in major tournaments again.
Yeah,
unlike Gary Anderson, Anderson seems to be returning to a bit of form. I don't think I'm not with all these who are saying he's a good outside bet for the title. Don't think that's going to happen. I think he'll do well to progress beyond the quarterfinals, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see him in the quarterfinal lineup.
Yeah, just look at Adrian Lewis. He actually won it in 2011 and 2012.
Yeah, and in one of those, I forget which one it was. He hit a 9-darter.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, it was in the first. Right. Yeah, in the first set, I think it was. So yeah, he did it really early on. Yeah, he was on form for that
Hamilton,
time.
Was it? It was Andy Hamilton, I think it was, in 2012. I think you might be right.
Yeah, I'm not an Eddie Hamilton fan. He's one of those rather boring players, I always thought. So.
Actually, sorry, it's 2011 final when he got a 9-darter.
Okay.
So that was against Gary Anderson. He beat Gary Anderson 7-5.
All right, yeah. So so when Anderson beat him to win his title, it was a bit of revenge there for him. But I think that year when Anderson made it to the final, that was when everyone realised, Anderson is absolutely a champion in waiting. He was clearly that good. It was more a sort of matter of time before he won his first title rather than, if. It was definitely when.
And to win for anybody to win it, you can't be lucky. You've got to be a fucking good player.
Oh, yeah,
to win it 2 years in the trot is something else.
Yeah, there aren't that many players that did that. Taylor and Bristow, and I think did John Lowe ever win it in 2 consecutive years? Can't remember that, but
let me tell you. I'll just tell you right now. John Lowe. Wait a minute. John Lowe, where is it? John Lowe, he won it. Nah, he won it. No, he actually won it. He won it 3 times. He won it in 79.
Yeah.
And then he won it 8 years later in 87.
Yeah.
And then he won it 6 years later in 1993.
Yeah. That was the last time that there was just the one darts, World Championship. That was the year before the split.
Yeah, pretty poor score, and he beat Alan Warner 6-3. He averaged 83.97. Yeah,
probably didn't need to do much better than that. Alan Warner was, he was not a bad player, but he never really did much to sort of really stand out, I don't think.
Yeah. Let's have a quick look. Gary Anderson, so he won the PDC obviously twice, was it 14 and 15, and he was runner-up. Obviously, runner-up, he got beat by Adrian Lewis in 2011, he got beat by Van Gerwen in 2017, and then he got beat by Gerwin Price in 2021.
Yeah, I was rooting for Anderson that year. Fucking anyone but Price. Jesus Christ. I really fucking hope Price doesn't make it to the final, especially if we're covering it.
How's he playing at the moment anyway, Gerwin Price?
Price. A couple of people have said that he's got a chance of winning it. I don't know. He's very hit and miss, and as long as he's more miss at the start of this tournament, then yeah, I'll be okay with that. You know,
I think he's one of these guys again. I think he's a bit like Barney when he's on form. He just gets. He's a bit like Eric Bristow. He gets better and better and better. But when he starts missing, he starts to lose it a wee bit, I think.
It's not very often I would have Gerwin Price and Eric Bristow in the same sentence. No, Eric Bristow was another one of those players where he was never beat. You know, he would still carry on, as the '89 final proved. You know, 5-0 down in the first of 6, and then he come back and wins the next 4 on a trot. Yeah, he didn't give up, did Eric?
But anyway, that's my fifth one. So your fourth place.
Well, my fourth was Raymond van Barneveld, who we've already talked about in the earlier when he was on your list. So we're straight back to your number 4.
Yep. There's not much more we can say about Barney except he's been around for a long time and he's got nothing to prove.
No, not at all.
He actually looks younger. I think he looks younger as well. He's lost a bit of weight and he's shaved his head as well. He actually looks better now than he did when he was playing back in the mid-80s. That is something. A lot of people don't realise just how long Barney's been playing darts for. Because it was sort of mid-90s when he really sort of like, you know, took off and became like one of the top players in the BDO. But I mean, he had been playing since at least the mid-80s. He's got some longevity. Unfortunately, I don't see him ever sort of like getting back to his glory days. But yeah, when he was on form and playing at his best, he was one of the best players to watch. I remember he didn't defect. He moved across quite a bit later. I'm sure he remained with the BDO. In fact, yeah, there you go. I mean, he was still playing with the BDO. See, once you, if you're playing with the BDO, you can't play with the PDC, can you? You can't play in both.
Well, there's one tournament where they did do that. Obviously, they don't now because BDO doesn't exist anymore. But there was one, I think it's the Grand Slam of Darts, and then you did have PDC and BDO players both taking part, but that was the only one.
Aye. Because, interestingly, Raymond Barneveld, Barney, he got beat with, what's his name, Gel Klassen in 2006. So he was still playing in the BDO at that point.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw his name in the PDC, I think he's going to get absolutely pumped stupid because he's, like most of the BDO players compared to the PDC were shite.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I was one of those who was thinking that. I was hoping, don't let that happen because I was quite a Barney fan. Well, he's number 4 on my list, so you know, so I was thinking, okay, right, I'm glad he's gone over to the PDC because he needs to be going up against better players.
Yeah.
But I really hope he's not going to get like absolutely buried by them. And no, he wasn't. He was more than capable against that lot. Yeah.
And he seemed to kind of raise his game. Have you ever actually, would you call it, watched a match where somebody is just, they can't hit a barn door? I've seen a couple of matches. There's one guy, I can't even remember his name. I think it's on YouTube, and it was like the worst darts player ever, which is probably unfair. But this guy, I don't know what his name was.
I think I know the match you're talking about.
He was just hitting 5s and 1s, and it was actually embarrassing to watch.
It was a BDO tournament, wasn't it? And it was a relatively late one. I can't remember his name, but I know he was playing Martin Adams. And everyone was saying how crap this bloke was.
Right, it was.
Yeah. And everyone was saying how crap this bloke was. And let's face it, he was. But they ignored the fact it still took Martin Adams at least 27 darts to win that leg. So Martin Adams wasn't exactly playing brilliantly either.
Is that what it was? 27 darts to win a leg?
Yeah. I mean, it was painful viewing,
Yeah. It was, aye. I think it's probably one of these things. I think if you're playing a good player, it's going to bring you on. But this guy, he was getting 6 and 14 and all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
And Martin Adams was playing equally as bad. His
Yeah.
game got dragged down as well.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. You really feel for somebody when they're like playing that badly.
There were some rumours going around that the bloke was drunk. I don't believe that for a second, because if he was, he would have been, you can tell when someone is playing darts drunk. No, he wasn't that. He was just absolutely fucking frozen with stage fright. That was his problem. He wanted the ground to just swallow him up. And of course, as he was playing like shit, it just got worse and worse and worse. So, yeah. Yeah, well, you're still funny to watch, but...
Yeah, I'm sure it's on YouTube. It's like the worst match of darts or something like that.
Yeah, it is on there, yeah.
Aye. But anyway, yeah, Barney. What can we say about Barney? Deserved person on the list. And my number 4, Bobby George.
So, Bobby George.
Yeah, we did state at the beginning it's not based on how well you play or how many tournaments that he's actually that you've won, whatever. Because I mean, let's have a quick look at the stats again. I'll have a quick look.
He never won the Worlds. He was the beaten finalist in, I think it was 1980, when Bristow won his first.
Eric Bristow, and then he got beat with John Part. He got beat 6-0.
Yeah, I have a feeling that that final with John Part, Bobby George had a serious problem with his back. He could barely walk. So the fact that he even made it to the final was something of a miracle. But that night it was giving him absolute hell. He could barely move, and there was never going to be a contest. John Part was just going to always wipe the floor with him. Yeah,
the thing I liked about Bobby George was, I mean, he was a larger than life character. He was like the sort of like the, I was going to say he was like the Alec Higgins. Alec Higgins was a fucking really good snooker player. Bobby George was a good darts player, but he never quite. I think I've read multiple biographies and history of darts, and I think Bobby George, he was fine when he was winning things like News of the World and all that. He was a good player, but he never really cut it when it came to the sort of like the World Championships.
No, I think he was unlucky on several occasions. The 1980 final, he definitely had the game. He could have beaten Bristow in that final, but yeah, it just wasn't to be. Are you looking at results there? I can't actually remember the result of it.
I'm just looking at. Do you know how much he got? Do you know how much Bristol got for winning in 1980?
Was it about $3,000 or something?
That's 4.5, and Bobby George got $2,000 for fucking semi. Okay, hell.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, he got 8 times that when he got beat in the final in 1994. But yeah, I mean, unreal. As you say, I don't know how Bobby George could even play. He had a really unorthodox throw.
Yeah, such a weird throw. Yeah.
I always thought it looked quite a good throw. It was quite smart looking.
Well, the camera angle made it look more orthodox than it actually was, because it's showing him at the side when he's throwing, and it looked okay. But when it was head on, he's like this throwing. Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. But I mean, it works for him, you know. But when it comes to personalities, I mean, he's just head and shoulders. I mean, he's even above Eric Bristow as far as the personality. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos on YouTube of there's a show with Bobby George and Wayne Mardle, and they are fucking hilarious. If you get the chance, you've got to watch those, because they're two really good mates off the circuit. And yeah, they are great. You've got to watch them. And if anybody hates my swearing, right, well, for you lot, don't watch those videos at all, you know.
So what is it? Are they commentating or what? Or is it just
no? It's just program? It was like an event, and it was just like like an evening with Bobby George, and it was hosted by Wayne Mardle, and they're just there talking to the crowd and that. And yeah, I just think it's fucking great. Yeah. The stories he's got told in ways that only Bobby George could tell them, you know. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, Bobby George is still alive, isn't he? I think he is.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he's getting on a fair bit now, but yeah, he's still around.
Yeah, still got the curls. But yeah, obviously he was a complete celebrity. I mean, he you know, when you think of like the sort of early players, Leighton Reese and all these, Alan Evans and all that, they were all quite fucking dour. And Bobby George is Mr. Glam. You had all the sovereign rings. I'm surprised he could actually pick the dart up. He had that many rings on his fingers.
I mean, that came along a little bit later. I mean, when he first started, he was like the golden boy of darts, you know. But then later on, all the big chunky gold jewellery and that became as much of his trademark as anything else, you know.
It was like the Kirk Stevens of darts, with all the birds hanging, page 3 stunners hanging around him and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, mind you, Eric Bristow had his fair share of page 3 birds with it, didn't he?
But I mean, Bobby George, he's on the list because he was an entertaining guy, and he was one of these guys I always wanted him to win, and he just wasn't good enough. Because he was, as I say, he won a lot of tournaments. You know, I mean, I think the News of the World was a really high profile tournament to win. As you say,
it was then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, was it? So you said it was actually literally first to one leg.
It was either, I can't remember exactly. It was either just like single leg, that was it, or it was best of 3. But yeah, it was no more than best of 3. So, you know, there was a degree of luck when it came to winning that thing, you know, because, I mean, you know, 3 games of darts could be over like that, you know. Yeah, so, there was a bit of that. But to win it twice, which he did, that's not just luck. You know, you could perhaps get lucky and make some progress, but it's not luck that ends up with you winning the thing, and certainly not luck if you win it twice, which he did. So I think that was the only televised event that he ever actually won, which is a bit of a shame because, certainly in the early 80s, he had the game to be a world champion. It was always a shame that he didn't do it. He's another one of those. He's one of the best players never to have actually won the world championship.
Aye, again, I think he was like a big fish in a big pond, and then when guys like Eric Bristow and Jockey Wilson came along, they eclipsed him. They were just
they did, and of course they also took all the headlines from him. So it wasn't until after the split, so from '94 onwards, that he started getting up the sort of like social standing, shall we say, you know, and he was becoming, you know, another big name, and he was certainly a big draw for the crowd. He also lives, well, not in Southend, but he's down here in Essex. I mean, he made fuck knows how much money from darts. I'm not going to go into the money side because that's what Phil Taylor always bang on about, the fact that he's a millionaire. But he's got this big mansion, and if you look at it from above, it's in the shape of a dart. It was built completely to his own plans. It's a fantastic place. So yeah, he's obviously done all right out of his darting career.
Yeah, I mean, he was like the king of tack. I mean, he was like the sort of the Liberace of darts. I mean, did you not have the walk on be like the king, the big robe?
He had the robe. He was even holding the candelabra. You know, he did the whole thing. Yeah.
You know, he put darts. He definitely put darts on the map. And you know, I think he's a larger than life character. And I get the feeling he's the kind of guy that if you spoke to him in the pub, he would probably quite happily have a chat with you.
Oh yeah. He always gives that impression. He's not the sort to, like, you know, just fuck off. You know, He always comes across as just like a probably likable bloke. I don't know any darts fan that doesn't like Bobby George. He's another who only just missed out on my list. If I was joined it, he was about number 12. So yeah, he only just missed out.
Yeah, that was my number 4. Is it? Are you number 4? Or is it
Yeah,
number 3
number 4. Yeah, so mine was Raymond van Barneveld, yours Bobby George, and our number 3s are the same. Old stony face himself, John Lowe. Oh, what a fucking great player he was, and he kept his playing ability, his playing level, pretty much the same throughout his entire career, whereas certain other players who I think we're going to mention in numbers 1 and 2, they had their peaks and troughs and that. John Lowe was just level all the way, which is why you look at his World Championship wins, they are so spread out because he was always playing at more or less the same level. And when it came to bullseye finishes, you never bet against him. He was absolutely deadly accurate on the bullseye.
Just looking there, yeah, he actually was a runner-up 5 times in the BDO. So he was, runner-up 5 times, and he won it. How many times was it? 3?
3, I think. Might have been 4.
So he was runner-up 5 times, and he won it 3 times. So that's 8 times. I don't think any
8 finals.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other player in the BDO that had that kind of success.
Yeah. I think the only player to have made more finals is Taylor.
Actually, Eric Bristol, he won 5 finals, and he was second 5 times as well. So he was
okay.
5. Yeah, but John Lowe, he won it, and Raymond Barneveld, he won it 4 times. Well, that was PD. Did he win the PDC as well? I think.
I think he only won the PDC once, but nevertheless, he still won it.
Barneveld he won 4 finals. He lost 2. John Lowe was in 8, winning 3 of them, and lost 5. Being a Scotsman, we're pretty shit at most things. And when the English are playing at anything, it doesn't matter who's playing England, we always root for the non-English people. And darts, John Lowe, I should have not wanted him to win, but he was just he came across as such a gentle. He was like the consummate sort of professional.
Oh yeah, yeah.
When you were talking earlier on about Christ Almighty, who like Barney, etc. They just replicate. Boom, boom. John Lowe, they were almost like not aiming. They're just kind of going like that, replicating it. John Lowe would actually. He would aim every single dart. He took his time, and as you say, it was like that. And when it went for the bullseye, boom, he would just hit it every time. He was such an accurate player. Yeah,
I mean, he certainly had the accuracy, and he was certainly good with the aim. I wouldn't say he took his time though. He wasn't a slow player by any stretch. In fact, I can remember an interview with him. I think it was in 90. I think it was 91. It was the year that Dennis Priestley won the World Championship, and John Lowe hated Dennis Priestley because he was so slow, and John Lowe couldn't stand slow players like that. I mean, fuck you imagine if he'd played Terry Down. But John Lowe, I think, was the one that really sort of popularised the rhythmic sort of style of playing. He was always playing at that rhythmical way, but it wasn't like he was just throwing his darts any old how. He knew exactly where he was aiming for.
And usually, any time if he was aiming for like any number, he would hit it bang on in the middle. It was always,
that's it.
Yeah,
especially again with the bullseye. It wasn't just resting on the wire. It was right dead centre.
Yeah. It was so precise, and he never really. I mean, when you think of like Eric Bristow and like Jockey Wilson, they all had the tall, what were they called, titanium, whatever it is. I can't remember.
Tungsten dart.
Tungsten. John Lowe had wee kind of dumpy looking darts.
Yeah,
Really,
they were much thicker darts than that, and of course the wires and the staples on the board were a hell of a lot thicker than they are now. So
yeah.
getting 180s and getting bullseyes on that board with his big old thick, I don't think he was using brass darts. I think he just liked a really heavy dart, so they were still tungsten but still quite thick. Yeah, you've got to have the accuracy to do that.
It's funny, as a kid when I was playing darts, I used to be able to like impersonate dart players because they all had their own sort of like things about them. And like John Lowe, anytime he had a dart, he always went like that. He always licked his finger before.
All right.
Like
Okay. I can't say I noticed that about him.
If you watch
I mean, there are
Yeah.
quite a few dart players where you do notice their sort of like little mannerisms. Eric Bristow.
Yeah.
Eric Bristow, the way he held his darts, he always had like his little fingers sticking out there like that. Yeah. So everyone thought he was a bit sort of like poncy in that. And Jockey Wilson sort of like jumping all over the place while he's throwing, The one that always got me was Dave Whitcomb. I hated the way Dave Whitcomb threw his darts because he always pulled that ridiculous face as he was throwing. You'd be like, as he was going, what's that all about? Oh, it used to really annoy the fuck out of me. Plus, he was not a personality vacuum, wasn't he, Dave Whitcomb? So, yeah, I was never a fan of him.
And he had a pretty dodgy haircut with the real thick NHS glasses as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
He
didn't have a lot going for him, that bloke.
But, John Lowe, he was, as I said, he was the best professional. If you were to pick anybody, you'd say he was. If you wanted to be a dart player, John Lowe's the guy to copy, I think.
Yeah, well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. He was the consummate professional, and a lot of people sort of like labelled him as boring, which I didn't agree with at all.
No.
And yeah, like you say, if you were playing darts down the pub or at home or whatever, and you wanted to become like a decent player, he was absolutely the one to watch, and he was the guy you wanted to try and copy.
Yeah. And again, I think we're talking about Gary Anderson, he never gave up. John Lowe never gave up either.
Absolutely.
No,
there was no way he was ever going to give up. You really had to go out there and beat him. He was not going to give that game to you.
Yeah, he never kind of showed any sort of emotion. But I think he still kind of plays in the scene.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, he plays in the seniors. Yeah, he's still going, and he's still pretty fucking useful as well. So
Really,
yeah, he's all right. He's John Lowe. Yeah, well, he wouldn't be number 3 on my list if he wasn't. But
well, the fact he's on my list in the same place, there you go.
Yeah.
Says it all. So anyway, right, we come to the top 2.
Right.
I think this is a bit predictable, but anyway, go for it. Who's in second place?
Right, okay. Number 2, John Thomas Wilson. Number 1, King Eric. Eric Bristow, number 1.
Yeah, ditto. I've got the same too.
Yeah. Let's face it, 2 darts fans, and we've been watching darts for about the same amount of time. There was no way that the top 3 was going to be any different to the 3 we've got.
Aye. I mean, these guys, whilst probably not the best players, when you see how the standard has risen so much, but I think for me the real classic era of darts was the rivalry. I mean, there's probably rivalry now, but as a kid watching darts, I wasn't a darts fan until I saw this thing, and I think I maybe saw Bullseye, and I saw this thing on TV. What's this here? My dad, let's watch this. This guy's Scottish. He comes from Kirkcaldy. We started watching. It was Scotland against England, and the rivalry between John Lowe, Eric Bristow, and there was the 3 of them that they just constantly, and Jockey Wilson was obviously Scottish, he was trying to beat them, and I mean, Jockey Wilson, what can you say about him? I mean, sadly, sadly departed. He actually
Yeah.
died quite a kind of sad life, unfortunately.
Yeah, and unfortunately, yeah, he became quite the recluse.
Yeah.
He sort of left darts behind him. It's a real shame. And Sid Waddell was always sort of like, looking out for him. And even though Jockey had left the world of darts far behind him, Sid Waddell was always still there or thereabouts, and he was always there to help him out whenever he could. So. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with, Jockey Wilson and Eric Bristow. Like in the 80s, it didn't matter if you were a darts fan or not. You knew the names Eric Bristow and Jockey Wilson. They reached a level of sporting fame that very, very few sports stars ever reach. They were household names throughout the whole of Britain. So, he did all right out of darts. There's no two ways about it. His performances were very up and down. When he was on his game, he was nigh on unbeatable. But it didn't happen all that often.
Yeah.
But there were several occasions, not least 82 and 89, when, he would be on his game at exactly the right time. And, two-time world champion. And as for like you were saying earlier about rivalries, yes, there are rivalries in darts today, but they don't even begin to compare to the rivalry that was Eric Bristow and Jockey Wilson.
Yeah. And what was quite kind of touching after Jockey Wilson passed away, I've watched numerous kind of interviews with Eric Bristow. Eric Bristow loved Jockey Wilson. He was a great guy.
Yeah, that's a lot of people think that their rivalry was like quite bitter, and it absolutely was not. Off stage they got on really well, and I've seen a few clips where they were playing in Scotland. And the crowd are really sort of like, on Eric Bristow's back. And at one point, a full can of beer is thrown on the stage, thrown at Eric Bristow. And it's actually Jockey Wilson who's like stops the game and turns to the crowd. He's like, you fucking pack it in, otherwise we're pissing off. And he meant it. He absolutely meant that. So, yeah, even though he was all okay with the whole England versus Scotland thing.
Yeah.
Rein it in, don't do any of that fucking shit. Otherwise, we're out of here, Yeah. So, yeah, even though a lot of people thought he was bad-tempered, everyone has their moments. He wasn't like that at all.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching when the BDO was, was on the TV. They also used to have like the home nations, Scotland versus England, and I think we had obviously Jockey Wilson. You could guarantee he was going to win his match, and I was that a guy Rab Stewart or something. His name was. There was a couple of guys, but we usually got beat because England had Dave Whitcomb, Eric Bristow, John Lowe. We were never going to win, but
wasn't it? I think it was 4 players on each side, wasn't it, or something like that. And England, had Bristow, John Lowe, Keith Deller, and I think it was Dave Whitcomb was the 4th. And let's face it, even though 2 of those players I don't really like, that's a fucking difficult team to beat. And Scotland, you had Jockey Wilson, absolutely one of the greatest of all time. The other 3 were nowhere near his sort of level. I can't even remember their names.
I think Rab Smith rings a bell. Rob Smith. I don't know, and I couldn't even tell you. I mean, I couldn't even tell you any other Scottish darts players back then. But yeah, I mean, Scotland being a wee nation, we were shit at most things, and being a young man growing up in Scotland. I didn't hate Eric Bristow, but I just thought you're a cocky bastard, and that's exactly what he wanted. He wanted. He was like the Muhammad Ali of darts. He told people how brilliant he was, and he lived up to it. And so if you let him, he would have you beat before. He would play mind games, before you even stepped on the hockey. half beaten with him because he was
Yeah,
such this invincible character.
You're spot on there. The mind games meant, you were, if you let his mind games get to you, you were beaten before you even set foot on the stage, and he knew that. So of course he was going to keep it up. There was no way he was going to sort of like lay off. So that was very much part of Eric Bristow's game, but it worked. So he was not going to stop it.
Aye, I mean the only person that could really stop him was Jockey Wilson, and they had some absolute classic encounters.
Yeah, I say none more so than the '89 final, which is still the greatest game of darts I've ever seen. Wilson storms off, leaves Eric Bristow for dead. But then Eric Bristow starts coming back, and everyone in the crowd and Sid Waddell commentating really did think, Bristow could actually win this. But no, wasn't to be.
I know we're talking about. I think we can talk about both players at the same time. I mean, Jockey Wilson, it was kind of like the Paul Gascoigne. What Paul Gascoigne was to football. He was this ridiculous talent, but he was flawed. He was like the George Best. He was flawed. He always had problems with alcohol, etc. And even his health. I mean, and when Jockey Wilson, I mean, he was sweating buckets. He was clearly overweight, etc. But when he was up throwing darts, you could feel he had the entire Scotland behind him. We were willing him to win, and when he was starting to win, and then Eric Bristow would start to get that glazed kind of look in his face, like, shit, I'm beat here, and you give Jockey Wilson an inch, and he'll just fucking run away with it. He thrived. He thrives. I mean, we were talking earlier on about is there players that kind of blow hot and cold. Jockey Wilson was one of them. When he was struggling, he would struggle, but never write him off, because he would maybe get 26, 45, and then he would get 180, whatever. He always. I think we were talking earlier on. I mean, he had. If John Lowe was a player you want, if you want to take up darts, watch John Lowe how he throws. Don't watch Jockey Wilson.
Don't watch Jockey Wilson. No.
He's off balance. He would actually sometimes he would kind of go like that, and he would almost trip over himself as he was throwing the dart. Yeah.
It was always the third dart for some reason. The first two, I mean, the first two weren't exactly like textbook, technique. But the third dart, I mean, there were times, he's almost falling flat on his fucking face as he's trying it,
He would get maybe like 2 treble 20s, and then the third dart would just kind of go, you get an 18 or something. But then, conversely, it would be times he would get a single 1, a single 5, and then he would get a treble. He was just, and he had this technique where he would kind of hold the dart and he would kind of weigh it up. He'd be like that, kind of teeing it up, and he wouldn't release it all the time. But whatever he did, he was phenomenal.
Also, of course, other players knew how to get to him. If they could upset his rhythm, then his game could sometimes go to pieces. And of course, that infamous Terry Down video. And there's a point in it, Jockey Wilson's going up there, 2 consecutive throws, and he's hitting 3 5s. For 2, so he scores 30 in 6 darts. Well, that was purely down to Terry Down's fucking unbearable throwing that just threw Wilson completely. And you could see him in the background, he was livid.
Aye, that little clip that we watched earlier on, you see Jockey Wilson going like that, shaking his head. He's always like so pissed off. And I think Jockey Wilson tried to reply by thinking, I'm going to fucking show this bastard. And he would go up and go boom, 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 and he'd get like 15. So Jockey thrived on when he was playing well, but he did get affected very much. He was an emotional character, and when you saw, I don't think anyone could dislike Jockey Wilson, even with English people. When he saw him, he had this big grin on his face, and he had no teeth, and he was just, because he was always very complimentary of his opponents.
He
he
Well,
always said how
most
well,
of the time he was. Yeah, most of the time he was. There were a few occasions, again, Terry Down, who really did piss him off. Yeah, because apparently after that game had finished, right, Wilson's behind the stage. They have like a bar area for the players and that, and he's sitting there. And Terry Down came in, and he was like trying to, like be friends with Jockey Wilson, and and he actually sort of like leant forward and tried to like kiss him, and Jockey Wilson pushed him off. He's like, "You fucker, you just beat me out there with your shitty darts, and now you're trying to give me A's." And okay, yeah. And the thing is, at that time, because I think that was '86. Jockey Wilson had stopped drinking, very much under doctor's orders. He wouldn't have done it willingly, I don't think. So, so it wasn't the alcohol talking. It was him genuinely, absolutely fucks off with this bloke.
Actually, I get the feeling that alcohol probably helped Jockey Wilson play, because he obviously he learned to play darts in the pub.
Yeah.
And it just happens that he was fucking good at darts. And I mean, because obviously you and I will both remember the not the 9 o'clock news where it's the darts, but he's going for the triple vodka.
Yeah.
And that is what darts was. They smoked, they drunk on stage. It was, it was very much of its time.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you watch the '89 final, I think it's the '89. Yeah, pretty sure it is. I mean, you've got. Between throws, you watch both Wilson and Bristow are both doing this. They're both puffing away on their fag. They're picking up their beers in the old jars, not in just a straight pint, and fucking downing them and doing all this between throws. I mean, it was still very much, the pub game then. Yeah, and you know what? I really miss that. I really wish that it was still like that today, not like the overly professional sort of stuff that it is now. No alcohol anywhere, no smoking anywhere at all. God, I find it a fucking nightmare going to a darts fucking event now. Couldn't even have a fag. I mean, I'll do without the drinking, I mean, teetotal for 12 years, but I'm not giving up the fags. Fuck that.
Well, I know what I'm going to do after this video. I'm going to go and see if the 1989 finals on YouTube, and I'm going to watch the whole thing. I think
it is on there. I can guarantee it, because I was watching it just a few days ago.
Did you watch the full thing?
Yeah, it is on there. Yeah. Best darts match of all time. Even last year's final with its the 9 darters and all that still doesn't beat this one.
Yeah, interestingly again, it says in that final 1989, Jockey, it was 6-4 to him, 94.32. Eric Bristol was 90.66, so he was quite a bit.
That's it. I mean, the averages make it sound like it wasn't going to be like that good a game, but again. Back then, 180s were not anywhere near as common. The dartboard, say the wires were really thick on there. The staples, really thick as well. So, the trebles were a lot smaller, and the doubles were a lot smaller than they are now. So you would expect the averages to be down a reasonable amount. I mean, let's face it. I'm sure either of us would be more than happy to throw a 90 average over however many fucking legs of darts they played in that final.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that compared to today, it's fucking nowhere. You might just about make it to the quarterfinals with that now.
I wonder if like any sport, equipment gets better, gets lighter, like running, obviously shoes get lighter and that kind of stuff. I wonder if the flights and darts will keep it sort of in the air longer. I don't know. I wonder if technology
technology in the dart itself has certainly changed. The weight distribution throughout it, and being able to keep the barrels thinner but still keep the same density. I mean, I suppose it also depends on what weight of dart you like. I mean, when I'm playing, I like a heavier dart, somewhere between 26 and 28 grams. Although I am actually better with a light dart, like, you know, a 15. I just don't like how the light darts feel. They feel really cheap and nasty. So yeah, I much prefer a heavier dart. Don't know about you there.
I can't remember what. Something niggles me. I had a set of tungsten, was it maybe 22 grams or something? I can't remember. They weren't the long, narrow ones. They were more kind of like John Lowe type, kind of wee stubby ones.
Yeah.
I had numerous sets of brass darts, but they were really thick.
Yeah,
quite
brass
literally
is...
couldn't get. You couldn't fit 3 in the treble 20. Put it that way. They were too fat. So why is, apart from, I think we're getting a wee bit misty eyed with nostalgia here. Why does Jockey? Why does he deserve a position that he's in on both our lists? Do you think?
Well, I think 3 reasons. Firstly, he was a great darts player. There's no two ways about it. Okay, yeah, he had plenty of off days, but when he was on his game, he was nigh on unbeatable. So he was a great darts player. He was a great personality, absolutely, and he achieved a level of sporting fame that very, very few people do. And he was just like this, you know, little fat Scottish bloke from, was it Kirkcaldy he was from?
Kirkcaldy.
Yeah. You know, and he was one of the biggest names in British sport. You know, he's, absolutely.
Well, of course, he even made it on the top of the pops, as we know.
Well, with Dex's Midnight Runners, yes. Now, I've heard conflicting reports about this. I've heard that I think it was like the lighting director or whatever did it deliberately as a joke. I'm not sure I buy that. I think it was a fuck up.
I think if he'd done it as a joke, he probably had his cards shortly after. I can remember sitting, that was back when, you know, as a teenager, I used to watch Top of the Pops on a Thursday night, and I remember sitting watching it with my dad. I'm like, you know, Jockey Wilson said with Dex's Midnight Runners, there's fucking Jockey Wilson's big fat face in the back.
No, let's face it, if he became that well known that, you know, they were able to do that and put his face up there on top of the pops, that says it all. That shows the level of fame he did reach.
I mean, he's as you say, I think he was like the perfect storm. He came along and he was. I mean, it's almost perfect. He beat John Lowe in the final, and then he got revenge and he beat Eric Bristol. So he beat his two nemesis.
Yeah,
the two guys, they were his rivals. He beat them, which was perfect. But as you say, in Scotland and even in the UK, he did become a household name. I've been in like pubs over the years. I was playing pool in a pub maybe a couple of months ago, and they had all these like portraits. They had a picture of Stephen Henry, they had a picture of Kenny Dalglish, picture of fucking David Coulthard, whatever. But they had a picture of Jockey Wilson. That says it all. He's a legend. He'll forever be. He'll never be forgotten. And there's a documentary on I think it was on Channel 4 at the time, and it's on YouTube. And it was the guy was going to try and find Jockey Wilson, and sadly they never. I think they met his wife, but they just said that he doesn't really want any visitors, and you never actually get to see him. And sadly, he passed away kind of shortly after. So it was sad. I mean, he made when he won it in '82, he made £6,500, and then he got 20 grand in 1989. So he probably was never. I mean, I don't know if he got a lot of money for sponsorship, but he was never going to be a millionaire, sadly.
No, unfortunately not. I do think a lot of that was also the fact that even though around 86 he was off the drink, he was soon back on it. I think he also had a bit of a gambling problem, which also didn't help matters, at all. I mean, he it's not like, after 89 and certainly after the split, it's not like he stopped. He was carrying on playing. He was playing for the PDC for quite a while. And as you can imagine, he was a massive draw for the crowds. If they knew Jockey Wilson was playing, you guarantee the place would sell out, probably about 5 times over. So I don't know exactly when it was that he sort of announced his retirement from darts. I know he did announce it, and then very soon after that he just totally disappeared, and no one could get hold of him. So yeah, it's not the happy ending that someone like him deserved, but these things happen.
Yeah, you could probably liken him to Alec Higgins. You never knew what was going to happen. When he was playing, you thought, oh well, what's going to happen here? And he wore his heart on his sleeve.
Oh
He
yeah,
really did.
yeah.
And when he won, I don't think anybody, probably, well, maybe not Eric Bristol, or I reckon John Lowe was probably happy for him. I don't think Eric Bristol was when he won, but probably, if Eric Bristol was still alive, he'd probably say, I was glad that he won it, because they were bitter rivals, but I think they were friends. I think they had the utmost respect for one another as well.
Yeah, exactly. The rivalry, absolutely, but I don't think it was bitter at all. I don't think Eric Bristow really had any genuine bad words to say about him. I dare say some interviews around at the time he'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna fucking bury him" and all this sort of thing. But it was, that was just Eric being Eric, But I don't think there was no personal battles between them. They both got on to absolutely fine.
I think them both existing at the same time probably is the reason they're on your lists, is because you took one of them out of the equation, you would have lost something, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And something you said earlier, actually, that I think is absolutely right. Jockey Wilson played at his best when he was playing the best players. He always seemed to, if he was playing someone who was a bit shit or or just not up to a decent level, Jockey Wilson's game would slip down a lot as well. It was like he was deliberately playing just about good enough to beat whoever he was up against. So of course, when he's up against you John Lowe's and you Eric Bristows, he was having to play the best darts he possibly could. And the fact that he was able to beat John Lowe and beat Eric Bristow means he absolutely had that game. He was
always able to elevate his play when required.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously Jockey Wilson, well deserved second place. So Eric Bristow, I mean, when I was as a kid, I didn't hate Eric Bristow, but I used to will him to miss. And when he was playing, didn't matter who he was playing, especially if he was playing Jockey Wilson. When he was on a double, I used to cover my eyes and I'd look away. And it'd be a game shot. Fucking hell. Yeah. He just never missed, and I hated Eric Bristol. I hated how he did that. He was just such a good player. But then it was, as I got a wee bit older, I can always remember, how they always, when at the end of the World Final, the BBC always did a montage of the best bits. And it's still very, very vivid in my head. And they had a montage of Eric Bristol winning, and they had the Carly Simon "Nobody Does It Better," and that just epitomised to me what this. I always thought if I'm going to be a sportsman, I want Alan Stewart to be on the TV, whatever I'm doing, whether it's darts or whatever. I want that tune played. Nobody does it better, and that was. Eric Bristol was untouchable. He was absolutely untouchable for such a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he was king of the hill, no doubt about it. And also, I think the case could be made that he actually managed to do more for darts than even Sid Waddell did, because although professional darts was there, and we had Leighton Rees as a champion, we had John Lowe as a champion. They wanted someone who was a big personality as well as a great player. because you think about it, you've been using Alex Higgins as an example a lot there. But Alex Higgins was the reason why snooker became so big. Because I say he was the big personality, and darts needed someone like that, and they got it with Eric Bristow.
Yeah, he was the pantomime villain, wasn't he?
Well, I suppose, yeah. Well, I suppose with you being Scottish, yeah, you would see him as like the pantomime villain. Because I saw him as, especially as I was like, quite close to his neck of the woods. So, yeah, I saw him as, yeah, God, yeah, you show him, mate. Working class London can be just as good as anywhere else. If not, we can be the best in the fucking world. So. Yeah, I saw him differently to you, but I mean, we certainly could both see that. This bloke was something special.
I mean, he went. I mean, I'm looking at the stats here. He won it in 1980, beat Bobby George, and his average was 88.1. He won it the year later in 1981. He beat John Lowe 5-3, and again his average was 86.1, which was even less than the previous year. He didn't win it. I think Keith Deller won it in 1983, if I remember rightly. 1982 was Jockey Wilson. And then he went on to win it in 84, 85, and 86. So in 81, he was averaging 86.1. 84, he got 97.5. 85, he got the same, 97.5. And then 86, he got 94.47. So his standard did improve considerably. Poor Dave Whitcomb got absolutely pumped stupid. In 1984, he got beat 7-1, and then he got beat 6-0 in 1986.
Yeah. Dave Whitcomb was one of those players. Bristow really knew how to get to Dave Whitcomb. I remember seeing an interview with him, and he was saying this. He said, yeah, if there was one player that I knew I could get under the skin, it was Dave Whitcomb. He just knew exactly what buttons to press and how to press them and that. And, of course, it worked because, yeah, like you just said there with the stats, Whitcomb was absolutely fuck all nowhere when he was playing Bristow.
And yeah, he was a handy player. He was a handy player, Dave Whitcomb,
Yeah, I'd have to go along with that. I was never a Whitcomb fan by any stretch, but yeah, he was a useful player. But yeah, long way behind Eric.
So Eric never won the PDC, did he?
No. By the time the PDC started, Bristow was already starting to get the effects of the yips or dartitis, as it's known in darts. So yeah, he couldn't throw a fucking dart. He just could not release it. But he did then. He went like behind the scenes, and he changed his throwing action so that he could actually start, playing the game again. You could see a big difference in his throwing action after this. It didn't look as good, and he wasn't playing as well as he used to. So really, he had some moments in the seniors when that started, but by that time he was like, oh, I'm going to stick to punditry and the occasional commentary. Yeah, that was as far as he went. But I mean, by that time, the Legends was already secure. He didn't need to play another game of darts. He was already absolutely number one.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, so he never qualified for a PDC, which is interesting because he was obviously he was obviously probably the big name at the time to move across to the PDC. Phil Taylor, which if I remember rightly, was Phil Taylor not Eric Bristow's prodigy?
Yeah.
Skinny Padawan, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I think when the split came along, Phil Taylor was already like, the big name. And Eric Bristow was already sort of like, actually, I think Eric Bristow had already started to get the, have his yips problem. So he was quite happy to just be like the mentor for Phil Taylor. They did play each other a few times in the PDC. But I think there was only one occasion when Bristow beat him. and Phil Taylor was really fucked off about it as well. And of course, Bristow just rubbed his face in it like you wouldn't believe, you know. Yeah, but I think it was only the one-off. Yeah, by that point, it was already quite clear that Taylor was way ahead of Bristow. Bristow had already changed his throw by then, so he'd lost a little bit of his edge.
Yeah, the minute you have to change your throw, then what makes a dart player successful is the throw, and if you change it, it's going to be a tough gig, I think, to try and come back. Yeah, I mean, Eric Bristow got beaten 6-1 with Phil Taylor in 1990. That was the kind of his gradual decline. And then, to be fair to Eric Bristow, he did get to the final in 1991, the year later, but he got shafted with Dennis Priestley 6-0.
Dennis Priestley, yeah. I think with that one, I remember watching that one. It was painful viewing because A, I was obviously a huge Bristow fan, and B, I hated the way Dennis Priestley played. He was so slow and so boring, and I think he was actually, like, you know, giving Eric a taste of his own medicine, sort of thing. You know, it wasn't gamesmanship. That was how Priestley played. But yeah, Bristow clearly did not like having to stand around, wait ages for this slow player. So good job he never played Terry Down, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the stats for Phil Taylor. I mean, I you know, he won it. I says he won the BDO 90 and 91. He beat Eric Bristow 6-1 and then 6-5, 6-2, 6-4, 6-3. I mean, he was in 2001. He beat John Parch 7-0. The year later, he beat Peter Manley 7-0. He beat Peter Manley 7-0 in 2006. He fucking beat Barney 7-1 in 2009. I mean, on paper, yeah, the most successful darts player is Phil Taylor, but it's interesting that he doesn't appear on either of our lists.
Either of our lists, no. And it's purely down to his personality. The bloke's an absolute arsehole. You know, I mean, no one who likes darts, and especially if they, you know, as much of a fan of darts as we are, no one is going to say that Taylor was not the best player. Of course he fucking was. You know, you don't win the World Championship 16 times if you are not the best player that there has ever been. But it doesn't make him a nice person. And he is not a nice person. That's why he was never anywhere near my top 10.
No, he didn't even. He was never going to make it onto mines. So Eric Bristow, king of the darts. Yeah.
So it was never in doubt. As soon as you know, we had this idea, and I'm talking about like 3 years ago when we first had the idea, I knew our top threes would be identical. You know.
I wasn't sure whether you were going to pick somebody that maybe I didn't know from the kind of the present day, but you know, that to me that was your Nicky Lauder and bloody James Hunt era of, you know, that was.
Well, that's it. I mean, even though obviously I still follow darts, you know, quite a lot now, and I'm still a big fan of it. I'm like you. I do think that the 80s was the golden era of the sport. That's when darts was at its absolute pinnacle. And even though it gets, like, you know, huge crowds now, and yes, the darts that you see is at a much higher standard than it was in the 80s, it's just not as fun to watch. And it's because we don't have the big personalities. We don't have an Eric Bristow now. We don't have a Jockey Wilson. And, you know, and the sport is poorer for it. So the 80s was absolutely when darts was at its best. No question of it.
No, I know. Just before we kind of wrap this up, did you have? I've got honourable mentions. I've got Dave Whitcomb and Martin Adams as.
I'm not a fan of either of those players. Martin Adams, I mean, for a while he was the best player in the BDO, but at that point the BDO it meant fuck all. So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of either of those. Honourable mentions, there's Scotsman that I would have as an honourable mention is Big John Henderson. Not one of the greatest players you'll ever see, but there's just something about him. Everyone loves seeing him play. He looks like the archetypal darts player. I mean, he's fucking huge. He's about like 6'10", and you know, he's the size of Leighton Reese, you know. So I mean, he is like the archetypal darts player and that. But he was playing with Peter Wright in the World Cup of Darts when Scotland won it. And yeah, that was the only time that John Henderson won a televised like tournament. But yeah, there wasn't a darts fan in the world that would have, you know, not wanted to see him do well. So yeah, he's definitely an honourable mention of mine. He's a great player.
One person I'm slightly surprised he didn't appear on either list is Andy Fordham. Obviously, the late Andy Fordham.
I did think about putting him on my list. He was another one. I loved watching him win the world title, especially as he beat Mervyn King. And he was a good bloke, you know, off stage. But he was very, very hit and miss. I mean, he would go years playing absolutely awful. You know, we're talking like averaging 70, and there are county players that would play better than that. So yeah, he went through long sort of like phases where he was just doing absolutely nothing. But he's got to be one of the most popular players there was when he won the World Championship.
Yeah, I think as you say, yeah, he only won. Yeah, he beat Mervyn King 6-3. In 2004, that was in the BDO.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen a guy that had fucking forearms who was like Popeye.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he was enormous, and he lost an enormous amount of weight through doctor's orders. And I remember seeing a photo of him after he'd lost it, and I didn't recognise him at all.
Yeah.
I was like, "Are you serious? That's Andy Fordham." You know, I had to check that a few times. But then he went and piled it all back on again, and I think in the end that was what did him. It was heart problems he had, wasn't it? So that's what did him.
Shame. And the very last thing, I've just got talented but twats, and I've got 4 people here. I've got Adrian Lewis, Gerwin Price, Alan Evans, and Ted Hankey. They were all twats, were they not?
Well, Ted Hankey, isn't he currently doing time for kiddie fiddling or something, you know? So yeah,
seriously, Jesus, yeah. He's a fucking wanker then.
Yeah, I say, yeah, twat is being very polite to him, I think.
He's now under the list of cunt.
Yeah. Darting cunts, yeah, we'll stick him in there. Yeah, I know Alan Evans was always like the villain.
Him and Jockey Wilson hated each other. There was genuine.
Yeah, let's face it, a lot of people hated Alan Evans, didn't they? I mean, even though him and Leighton Reese played, for Wales together, I'm not entirely sure Leighton Reese got on with him that well. So yeah, I think everybody hated him. Yeah. And as for Gerwin Price, he's another one I'd put under darting cunts, actually. I cannot stand that bloke. He's such an arsehole. And I would stick Phil Taylor in there, but I wouldn't have A.D. Lewis in. I like A.D. Lewis, so I certainly wouldn't have him in that list.
Yeah. As I said, I did, to be fair, I did watch. I watched a couple of interviews with him, and he was, I think it was just... What he did say was, he does seem to attract attention wherever he goes. If it's kicking off, 9 times out of 10 he's involved.
He's involved. Yeah, that is true. And to be fair, a lot of the time it wasn't his fault. I think the most infamous one was him and Peter Manley when Lewis walked off stage. Because Peter Manley was, I mean, you know how much Eric Bristow wound up other players. Peter Manley took it to totally ridiculous levels. He did it like far too much, and A.D. Lewis just had enough and he fucked off. But he got talked into coming back, because as soon as he came back on stage, Peter Manley started up again. So yeah. So I don't know what it is about A.D. Lewis. He does seem to attract the arseholes of the game, and yeah. I kind of feel sorry for him a bit in that regard.
So yeah, there we go. That is it. Yeah, we will be along on. Is it the quick one? Yeah, but we'll be along. Hopefully, is it? I take it the final is on the 3rd of January.
Yeah, it's got So
Yeah,
it's a Wednesday of all days, but
I take
yeah.
it's not because I'm at work. I take it it's not. It'll be at night time. I hope.
Yeah, it'll be either a 7 or 8 o'clock start.
Right, that's fine.
That one.
I can do that as long as it wasn't at work. So yeah, what the plan is, we are going to. I'll probably go downstairs and get out the laptop. We're planning to watch the PDC World Final. Obviously, we can't for copyright reasons. We can't actually show it, but we'll be doing our own kind of commentary. So what you might want to do when you join it is get it fired up on your Fire Stick or your whatever it is, your illegal TV thing of choice. Watch it and then turn the sound down, and you can listen to us giving our own take on the final.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something to look forward to?
Yeah. When does it start again?
It starts this Friday on the 15th.
Right, I will need to make a special effort to actually start watching that. So, anyway, folks, yep, that is just under 5 hours worth of.
Well, you got a fair bit of editing to do in this one, though, haven't you? So we might actually be able to cut it down to a mere 4 hours of it, you know.
Right, anyway, folks, listen. Well, thanks to you, Lukozer, for joining me. It's been one we've had on the cards for a long time. I'm glad we finally got it out there. It was good fun. And finally, folks, I just want to thank you very much for watching. And it says we will be back live on January the 3rd, 2024, which is a Wednesday, and it's for the PDC final. Until next time, folks, as always, thank you very much for watching.